Coming in a little bit late, but you know we had to get you for a number of reasons. Major shakeup in the NBA today. Have to come through and talk about it in terms of the reverberations. Yes, indeed. Let's get the Facebook in order. I hope everybody out there is doing well. A little bit later on the East Coast, but still, we have to do what we have to do. All right, make sure the Twitter is good. All right. Let's get the YouTube in order. Okay, let's get. We're good across the board. I hope you guys out there are good, and we'll get right into it. It's a lot. It's the first day of July. The sun is shining. We had nice weather today on Cape. I mean, I got a little. Hold on before we just get myself in order here. Let me get myself in order. Just myself in order. I mean, got the chapstick on, but just make sure it's right. You know, you don't want it glistening too much. You know, I remember Dave Chappelle had this skit, Dylan, and Dylan. You don't want the chapstick to glisten too much. All right, much better now. But happy Tuesday, middle of the work week. I know we got working class heroes that's out there doing what y'all do. Respect. Okay, I'm in the education field, so it's vacation season, it's rejuvenation season, but at the same time, you know, we can't scurry, we can't move too far from the 9 to 5 grind. We have to stay sharp. Okay, and coming in a little bit late, we're gonna get to why that is, but let's the intro. Come on now, let's get the intro going on. All right, Mi casa, su casa. Oh. Run that back. Let's get it live. Okay. Get our volume right. Volume a little bit too much. We too much on the volume. Come down. There it is. And there it is. Welcome in, folks. Indeed. SandCity. What? Go. SandCity Sports. We are to the business. Let's go ahead and run the intro back. Let's get our energy right. SandCity, what? We are here. That Tuesday edition. A little bit later in the evening, the nighttime, nonetheless, is the right time. We have a lot to get to. I hope you've had a beautiful, hard-working day. Come back. Where's my? There we go. Let's bring back the beach, the sunshine. And it was a guys in the it was a men's league night tonight. So good ball game. Excuse me. Another loss. I have to get my team into the win column. Haven't been uh, the skipper that I need to be thus far. So another L, and we played. We didn't play well enough to win. Is the point? Okay, that's the bottom line. But it was encouraging because we had some new faces, a couple new people show up that played well. Um, we had some big guys, so that we were able to board up. Haven't been able to do that as much. First game for a lot of guys, so we gave up really the majority of the 50-50 balls, the Tommy points. Um, guys just kind of getting back in the rhythm. End up losing by 13. Number of dunks missed, 3 or 4 dunks missed, so that cut that 13 to 7, right? And then you talk about the misread. So unforced errors, which we're going to speak that language because it is the season of Wimbledon. The Summer Classics uh, are upon us, so that is wonderful. Um, but a good day, a good, humid, muggy. Right now, it's cool. It's kind of calmed down for the time being. But look, hey, the more the merrier. Okay. Tomorrow's supposed to get some rain, and then it's gonna pass through. Allegedly, the forecasts, are what they are. So we'll see. But today, chance of showers. Fortunately, we didn't get any showers. I know the ground. I know we need the rain and all of that. I'm not saying. Obviously, you have to have a balance in your ecosystem. But it's good when the sun can shine and people can get out, move around, be social. So that was the case today on the Cape, as well as the heat and the humidity. We had some socialization. As I told you, there were some things to be encouraged by and a number of things to work on in terms of our men's league. Some of the young guys are playing well. And as I said, have struggled with numbers the last couple of weeks. So to have a full team today was good. Um, Guys can get their rest and all of that stuff. So it went well. Uh, Coming to you a little bit later than usual, and that is because I had the honor and privilege of being on with fellow member of the Maller Militia, Emmett. Let's get sure. Yes, Mr. Emmett Douglas, who you can find on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, has his show, The Family, and was, let me just pull this up. Yes, indeed. I got it. And so, main man Emmett Douglas, his show, The Family, on X, Twitter, whatever you may refer to it. Oh, man, see, I'm over here. I'm messing up. I'm kicking. I got to watch. It's always, I gotta make sure I bump this, I bump that. I gotta come on, get it right. Want to give a plug, and then as soon as I make sure that my shot is correct, we're here. Let's get it, everything in order. Things good, right? A little bit of Murphy's Law, folks. Okay, because I bumped it. It goes at it. Okay, a little bit of Murphy's Law. Today, right? A lot of that just had to do me rushing, trying to get from point A to point B, and then so kind of make your own luck in that from that standpoint, right? Uh, you know, Failure to plan is planning to fail. That type of situation and scenario. Um, but hey, like Denzel said, I keep falling forward, and thrilled to be with you. Even though on the East Coast, as I said, but then I'm alluding to why I had the honor and privilege to rock out and be on the family. Emmett Douglas, Malin Militia, really good episode. Talked about what we must talk about today because the NBA is going buck wild, right? No pun intended. Buck wild. these moves that's being made in the NBA, salary dumps, it boggles my mind. Okay, people, don't want to spend on anything, and you have a good thing going, but now you got to make sure you cross your T. And okay, if you're a billionaire, you obviously know something about money. But there's a lot of billionaires out there that are owners that are winning championships, and they spend the money, but we, the fan, we don't see it. They obviously take the hit when you're going into these things, luxury tax, so on and forth. But as I say, the championship is going to pay itself off over time, and these owners, you're going to get that money back. You're going to get that money back. Which let's lock in on this. Respect to Emmett Douglas. Check out the family on Twitter, X, whatever you have, call it. He might jump in on SandCity Sports. I got to make sure I check my messages. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead, right? Let me just go ahead and boop, boop. Let me be proactive. Let me just close this. Boop, boop. Yeah, I'm going to react. It most certainly was a good time. Here's tonight's. Let me just shoot that over to Emmett so that he has it. Right, because on the left coast, it's only 8. You know what I mean? You guys on the left coast, you're good. East Coast a little bit later, but it's summertime. You know what I mean? It's Sambe time. I had a song that I had in my mind. Breaking Bad song. Oh, promising project in the chat. Let me just let folks know on the left coast that SandCity is going on right now, if they have time. And then we're going to jump right in because on the East Coast, we got to start. Obviously, we're going to start with Dame, but we have to start with something even before Dame, which is why I'm so encouraged in that I was able to jump on to a friend's platform and program and try to add some surplus value. That means means the world. What's good, Chris? Good to see you as well. Welcome in. Just getting started. Just telling the folks, and they've heard it a couple times. Had to jump on the family. Emmett from the Maryland Militia was outstanding. But the other reason that I'm just pumped and thrilled, because I was thinking, I did an episode yesterday, maybe, obviously there's groundbreaking, and it is groundbreaking that we have to discuss today. So I said, maybe we can push it back. But I'm thrilled that because today, folks, it's Bobby Bonilla Day, folks. Okay. How can you have a platform? Never mind, it's the summertime. Never mind, it's the summertime, folks. Folks, it's Bobby Bonilla Day. You know what I mean? That take precedent over. No, man, give me that Twitter, man. Give me the twitter.com. I did misspell it, right? Because I'm in the old. I'm holding on. I actually, and then I was rebuked. It's X. It's X. For whatever reason. X marks the spot. Jay Glazer's out there living his best life. Shout out to Jay. Respect. I mean, I love, you love to see people posting, but we're going. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's a lot of things, but first and foremost, let's get into why today is Happy Bobby Bonilla Day, folks. Today, Bobby Bonilla Day. That July 1st, Yes, sir. That unofficial, official beginning of summer. Today, Bobby Bonilla gets another milli, essentially another 2 mils. Got another decade. Another another decade of getting this money. Oh, man. This is Bobby Bonilla Day is an equivalent. Go ahead and check out In Spirit, in Perpetuity. Okay, 30 for 30 gold. About the brothers whose name escapes me, but I'll get it. I'll get it in a second. That signed the deal when the ABA and the NBA merged. They owned the Squires. I believe it was the Kentucky Squires. And they wanted an NBA team, and it was just a battle. You know, there's like, if we're gonna merge, we want a team, but there was no team for them to have. And so this is right, because it's a couple things, and we're gonna get to Bobby Bonilla Day. I'm gonna talk about in spirit, in perpetuity, and we'll get that for you on the screen. But Bobby Bonilla Day is a parallel to that. Let me be a little bit more responsive to the audience, right? If we have Bobby Bonilla Day up here, let's break down Bobby Bonilla Day specifically, and then we'll talk about In Spirit, in Perpetuity. Whereas the uh, owners of the Kentucky Squires, and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong on that, wouldn't budge. So the NBA ABA merger couldn't happen because they wanted a team, or it's like, we're not going to sign off on this. The deal can't happen. And by the way, interesting fact: this knockdown, drag out, barn Royal Rumble of a negotiation took place right here on the Cape, right in Hyannis, at what used to be called the Cape Cod Conference Center. Now it's the Irish Village, right here in Hyannis. So that's another fun, that they had. Talk about the Cape in the summer. And so they said, no, we're not going to. And so they agreed that they would get like 0.15, 0.0, whatever the minuscule number was, percentage of the 4 teams that ended up merging. They would get that in perpetuity, which means forever. And so as the NBA grew, the Silnas was their name. And that ended up being worth hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. So we'll talk about it. So Bobby Bonilla's deal is like that. Let's go get right. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Let's hold on. No. Come run this back. Let's participate. Hold up. Share with the people the glories of Bobby Bonilla Day. Let's go.
Bobby Bonilla hasn't played in a game in over 20 years, but every July 1st, the New York Mets pay him around $1.19 million, which is more than 16 players on the Mets' current payroll. Over time, Bobby Bonilla has been paid nearly $17 million in deferrals with interest, instead of the original $5.9 million remaining on his contract. Bonilla will continue to receive a check every July 1st until 2035, when he will be 72 years old. Ask anybody but the New York Mets, and that's a pretty good retirement plan. Bobby Bonilla hasn't played in a game in over 20 years, but every July 1st, the New York Mets pay him around $1.19 million, which is more than 16 players on the Mets' current payroll. Over time, Bobby Bonilla has been paid nearly $17 million in deferrals with interest, instead of the original $5.9 million remaining on his contract. Bonilla will continue to receive a check every July 1st until 2035, when he will be 72 years old. Ask anybody but the New York Mets, and that's a pretty good retirement plan.
That's a pretty good retirement plan, my friend. Right? So it's a celebration for Bobby Bonilla Day. You understand? Because it's a business. It most certainly is a business. As we're seeing in the NBA, in terms of the Milwaukee Bucks, and then them deciding to just say it's over, which we talked about on this pod at length this was inevitable as far as I was concerned. Okay, because the Bucks gave away their championship window when they shipped out Drew Holiday, just like the Celtics. And there's reports now that they're going full tank mode. So you want to talk about Fury in Dallas? They're talking about Fury in Dallas, and there's no excuse for it. We've gone over no excuse for this. Talk about the second apron. It could have been avoided. I won't hear, and I'm really hungering. I'm really hungering to go, and you don't want to, right? I'm not. I don't. I just want to hear the argument for the inevitability of dismantling a dynastic team for the Celtics. And I'm gonna do my due diligence because there's a lot of great people, a lot of Celtics pods that I listen to. Obviously, we have great sports writers in this town, so I got to dig deep. There's a couple articles I saw on the Globe that I just need to look at, and and that if they don't do anything, the argument, if they didn't do anything, they're gonna be $200 million in the luxury. Yeah, Celtics had to do something. Okay, but you don't break up your core four. You don't break up your fantastic four. And by the way, we talked a lot yesterday. We're going to reference there is a fantastic four in Denver. That's quite serious. Denver didn't just say, "Oh, second apron, so we're going to get rid of Michael Porter Jr. With an expiring contract." No, we're going to replace Michael Porter Jr. with a better fit for the team. And by the way, put Michael Porter Jr. in position to be successful and keep this championship window wide open. Get that good cross breeze. That's what's happening in Denver. Over here in Boston, there's whispers and rumors about tanking. Good question, Chris. Mr. DeBansa, right? Hey, he's next up. The pride of New England, our abundance of riches. As we've seen these two young guys come through the ranks, I refereed, in the same vicinity, and didn't referee Cooper specifically, but the same venue, Zero Gravity, some of those tournaments. And it's just like what in football we're seeing a march for Arch Manning. Basketball, DeBansa is going to be the prize pick next year. Don't see the Lakers or Celtics having a shot at AJ, who I called Ace today. Ace is his father's name. Got them confused. His name is Anisette. But one of these tanking, non-playoff making teams. Okay. Now the league, we got to keep. Something. Let me push back on that. Okay, maybe Charlotte would be a good landing spot, and I'm saying that because Charles Lee is a good coach, and Charlotte might be getting their act together. The Wizards, I have no confidence in, and who knows, like Utah. You already have Ace Bailey. They essentially play the same position. Danny Ainge is not dumb enough to make the same mistake the Portland Trailblazers did. So if Utah happens to to get the number one pick, he's already in Utah. So maybe this is what the NBA is angling for. Because, of course, the NBA the draft has very interesting storylines. All right, we got Bobby Bonilla Day on the East Coast. The countdown is on. We got 45 seconds left of Bobby Bonilla Day. Take it in, folks. Breathe. Bobby Bonilla Day. We T-minus 30 seconds. And the reason that this is, and we're going to get back to AJ. Thank you so much, Chris. Because the working man can come out and win and get their flowers. That's another glorious thing about Bobby Bonilla Day. Okay? Big, beautiful tax bill and, billionaires and captains of industry. Bobby Bonilla Day signifies the working man can get a piece of the pie. A big, wholesome chunk as we say goodbye to Bobby Bonilla Day. We head to July 2nd, but we took it in. We didn't miss it. Bobby Bonilla Day. Yes. Okay, we move to the second day in July. And as for now, the weather is the sun is shining and it's a beautiful thing. But to specific to your point about AJ, yeah, it's going to be these playing teams, these tanking teams like the New Orleans of the world. Okay, but New Orleans and this kid Derek Queen, he's a problem. His coach, I don't know why he wasn't top 5. Honestly, I don't know how he slipped to 13. The Pelicans gave up a king's ransom. The Pelicans and this is Bill Simmons and others have said, which is insanity, is that they're giving up next year's first round pick and they're not making the playoffs this year. And they're probably going to be bad. So that could be just bananas if the Hawks are gifted AJ DeBanza vis-a-vis the Pelicans, and the Hawks already have a number one pick, because you can't be a number one pick and not be from France, apparently. You can't be a top 5, top 10 pick and not be from France, apparently, in terms of their takeover. But that would be, they'd have to move some things around because they got Jalen Johnson, who's playing well for them. So Pelicans, Jazz, I'll accept Charlotte. Washington's a no-go till we figure out what the heck they're doing. I like them getting CJ McCollum for just some stability. I have no idea what the Pelicans. See, the Pelicans, that's Jordan Poole. No. I don't want any parts of Jordan Poole. Okay? Volume shooting. Interesting point. Soft body-wise. Chris, he's not, and it's always, he's got some weight to him, but he's kind of lean as well. Let's get Derek Queen on the screen for people. We got to talk about this. It's just it's just a lot of talent. He was on another Montvert super team. It's not the best image. That's a good image, right? Okay, let's get Derek on the, looks like a dude to me. One last time, happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Shout out to the working class heroes that get their flowers. I love it. Chris makes the point, looks kind of soft body-wise, a little bit of fluff, right? He's a big guy, has like that clean-up hitter frame a little bit. It's not just necessarily muscle on top of muscle. It's always funny, the Zach Randolph comparison. I told you, I went to prep school. Zach Randolph is my age, class of 2000. McDonald's All-American game that year was in Boston. Didn't get because you're in high school, so you don't have the resources. Obviously, if it was McDonald's All-American game was in Boston now, I would go because I can just get my own getting car and go. But you didn't have the ability to do that necessarily in your formative years. But Zach Randolph, their body type is similar. If their game is similar, watch out NBA, because Zach Randolph was a full-fledged problem. Okay, when he was on the Trailblazers, nicknamed the Jailblazers. But then more so, he reinvented himself with Memphis. We saw a side of Zach Randolph, who certainly had, his issues on and off the court. But he found a home in Memphis. Embraced the city embraced him and Gasol on the front court, playing physical power basketball like they still play to this day. And Zach was a force. So if that's his NBA comp, well, you have a force of nature who's never healthy in Zion Williamson, who you need to. It's time for the Zion experiment to end for the Pelicans, just like it's time for the Embiid experiment in Philadelphia, in my mind. Now, this year could be lightning in a bottle, and Embiid is all of a sudden going to be healthy, and the skies will part, and it's going to be just beautiful and blissful. Okay, I hope so. I got love for Philly. Got family in Philly, got love for Philly. Okay, but it's been what it's been his entire career. So I think it's time for, a new start in Philly. Build it around Tyrese Maxey, Embiid, whoever's going to pay you money going forward. I don't know. But one of those two things have to happen. Either Embiid needs to come to the realization that's not his team anymore and buy in, or if he wants to continue to have it his way, he can be benched and he can go. Not too different than what's going on with Dame, who we're going to get to. Okay, but this kid Derek Queen, he's just what I'm seeing. He's very efficient, and he has size, and he uses his size, and he's slippery around the basket, and he finds angles, and he has a little. I'm seeing a little bit of McHale in his game in terms of how he just goes to work in the paint and just bucket after bucket after bucket. Right? And I know that's you have to whisper that, okay, in the analytics world and the threes or dunks world, okay, but in real basketball that people play, all right, just like real football
What,
that people
yo,
play.
Andre, can you hear me?
What's up, Emmett?
What's up, bro? My camera's on or off?
Your camera's off, but I
trying
can
to
hear you
Okay, cool.
loud and clear. Let me
My mic sound good? I haven't used this mic in a little bit, so hopefully it doesn't sound like too staticky.
Thanks for jumping on, man. I'm gonna throw my headphones on, and it's no issue here.
All right, there we go.
Emmett, you can go ahead and jump in. Got my main man Chris in the chat, who's we're talking
What up, Chris?
a little bit of Derek Queen, and just two things for me. I'm a fan. I'm a Derek Queen fan. He's a dude.
He said all the right things too.
Right. But the Pelicans did lose their mind giving up that first round unprotected for next year.
Yeah, I thought that was a little crazy, especially when you consider the unprotected first round pick. That okay, most likely, like you were saying earlier, the Pelicans are going to be trash. Zion Williamson, I don't think basketball, he's trying to get in shape. He's trying to lose the weight. But even last year, when he may have arguably been in the best shape he's been, he still had injury issues. And it's getting to the point where the story that kind of broke a couple weeks ago where Zion is getting sued, that whole thing kind of stopped there a little bit. I don't know if we're just waiting on the court hearing. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because she was saying some wild stuff about him, and how the character stuff goes, and that's half the reason they need to trade him. But the other half, it's just I don't know if he's going to be reliable enough, and maybe I'm wrong. I think the best opportunity for the Pelicans, because we know they're not going to trade him this offseason. There ain't no way in hell. But you let him play one more year with the Pelicans, and if it just absolutely flops, then okay, then we got to trade him. We got to get rid of him. That's the only option that the Pelicans have. But I mean, it's crazy to think, because I know we were talking about it. Andre was on my show earlier. The family, you can hear that on X. Just look up at Emmett on Air. You can go to the highlights tab, and you can hear Andre and me earlier. And I was talking, we were talking about how, we both got started calling, sports radio and doing podcasting in 2020 when the COVID happened. That was Zion's rookie year. Time has flown. That has been 5 years. 5 years of Zion, where, if you guys remember, when he came out of that class, he was looking I'm going to be, he was, as highly regarded as Flag is right now, as Cooper Flag. And yes, I don't think he's led to that at all. It's crazy. I hope it works out. I don't hate the guy. I mean, I'm not hating on him, but the way it's going, not looking good.
Indeed. And for me, I've seen enough of that, and I just feel like let's move on for both people. We'll talk a little bit more. We talked about it on your show. We're going to talk about Dame here, but we've seen it. Let's let Zion get a fresh start, and let's let the Pelicans start to build around their future, which Derek Queen, I'm just saying I'm high on this kid. I think he's got the all the right pieces. Zach Randolph was mentioned. He could be a Zach Randolph without having, those years of just uncertainty and issues off the court. We're talking about a Zach Randolph who's just bought in from day one, and rather than you having to wait till Zach Randolph gets to Memphis to see that best, his best years. It could be from day one with Derek Queen. But just the idea, that the conversation, and Chris also mentioned, I mean, I want to get your thoughts on VJ Edgecombe, who I'm very high on. I think it's a very good fit, him going to the 76ers. It's him partnering with Maxey. They got the kid from Duke that can shoot it, McCain. And so those three young bulls, and then George and Embiid as the older guys. So VJ Edgecombe, I I think he has the pieces. You can talk about like a Westbrook type comp, just in terms of just a skilled, explosive player that has to develop his fundamentals. But I think that will occur. But Emmett, if you have anything on VJ Edgecombe, and then my follow up to that's going to be, I just think this is it's just a deep draft. There's just a lot of talent all over the place. The Cooper mania is fine. I'm happy for Cooper but Dylan Harper, my family's Cats Connect. Dylan Harper is going to be a monster. Like Derek Queen is going to. There's just a lot of players in this draft that I feel are very promising. Are gonna hit VJ Edgecombe amongst them. But specific to Edgecombe, and then Emmett, your thoughts about the draft class writ large. I don't know if Emmett, you heard that question. You're muted. I don't know if I need to unmute you.
Okay, you can hear me now. My bad. I was giving you a repost on Twitter, so I was kind of distracted.
Oh yeah, go.
With Edgecombe,
repost. Go ahead.
With Edgecombe, I think it's a pretty solid pickup. I mean, the Sixers, it wasn't like I give them credit as much as you could say that Ace Bailey may be a good player, but just like it's kind of like the Shedeur Sanders thing. That's kind of what it reminded me of when you skip him workouts. Seemed like he just didn't care. So I applaud the Sixers for going the Edgecombe route, because if he, like, you compared him to Russell Westbrook, if he can get to even 75% of that ceiling of prime Westbrook, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, and that's what the Sixers need. I mean, Maxey is a type of guy where when you, like we were saying earlier, when you look at that team, who do you look at as that guy? Tyrese Maxey. And, I mean, Paul George, he ain't that guy anymore. Joel Embiid, like we said earlier, and like you were saying on your show, it's a question mark. Like, is the guy going to be healthy enough to play, to hit a full season? That's a question. We don't know the answer to that. We'll know that later. Obviously, it's not the NBA season, but I think Edgecombe, it was probably one of the better picks that they could have made at that time. And going over to the Ace Bailey thing, like I mentioned. Now, I know there was a lot of people, Rob G, producer of The Odd Couple, included, that was saying that, he's going to be a bust. I don't know if I'm going to go that far because I liked what he did in college. But what I will say is I got to give him credit for just taking it and just going to Utah, because there was rumors that, like, when he even looked, like, when you saw him get drafted, he looked like, damn, I just got drafted by the Jazz. Like, that sucks. And he didn't really complain about it after the fact, and everyone was worried about that, him not working out with certain teams. I like that. I've heard some wild talk about Cooper Flagg lately, man. I've heard some wild stuff. And one of the things I heard earlier today was that Avery Johnson was saying that he would rather have, like, he didn't like say rather have, but he was really liking Cooper Flagg compared to Luka, kind of insinuating that. I like Cooper Flagg as a prospect, but I just like, and I think he'll turn out good. And I think it might be an adjusting period for the Mavericks, but people are going wild with this, like bringing up the whole, are we rooting for Cooper Flagg because he's white? I don't know. I mean, the whole Caitlin Clark thing is going on right now, and you can argue that is people are being racist to her, and she's getting the bad treatment. So I don't like to go that route. People are going there, but I'm really intrigued to see what Cooper Flagg can do, because he's going to be pushed to be that number 2 option immediately, because Kyrie Irving is going to be out for the first probably 3 months of the season, Andre, due to that Achilles injury.
Correct.
So that's going to be something that you really have to worry about.
Right, you said a lot there. Just real quick before I have some follow-up. Chris asked the kid Maluk from Duke, what is your take? For me, let me just come in quick. I have him. I'm very high on him. Played for Team Sudan. Luol Deng, kind of a mentor for him. I have
Luol Deng's a dog.
Right. I have him being a starting center on a contending team. I think he's going to be, a strong player in the NBA, a rim protector, a finisher, and just like a Steven Adams type of a player, just a very capable center on a championship level contending team. What do you think about young man from Duke going to the Suns?
Yeah, the Suns, their obviously thing they needed the most was a center. And when you talk about how Devin Booker was back in 2021 with his best season, arguably, when the Suns made it to the NBA Finals against the Bucks, what were their team looking like? They had Chris Paul, they had Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, who you can argue was that second option. I think the Suns, they've been saying this since like 2 months ago that, look, we want to pair a center around Devin Booker. We believe that is where Devin Booker is going to be at his best. And you get a guy out of Duke, like, you already know he's coached well. You already know he knows the fundamentals. I mean, Duke, even, after the Coach K era, they are still always really good at finding that guy. So shout out to Duke and shout out to him, because I think he's going to be a great addition to the Suns. And I'm not saying that the Suns are going to be anything close to good next year, but baby steps, it takes a start to be one, if you know what I'm saying, Andre.
Right. So that's we're of the same mind there. The Suns, I'm not pleased with the organization. You get rid of 3 capable coaches in 3 seasons. The owner comes in all full of, sweat and vigor, and he's gonna.
That is weird. Can I say something? What do you think is gonna happen with Brad Beal? Because for me, like, I think that him and Devin Booker just didn't go well together. So I think if you are the Phoenix Suns, maybe you look to get rid of him. But after seeing how bad that he did, it's like, who's going to take on that big of a contract? Do you maybe pull a Damian Lillard and try and buy him out or something? Like, I know that was a plan, because I don't think keeping him's a solution at this point. You just got to get rid of all that bad taste in your mouth if you're the Phoenix Suns and restart with this new era. I mean, you just started talking to Devin Booker about extending that contract, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle all of that.
Yeah, so again, the Suns, it starts from the top with Matt Ishbia, and he was determined to win now. And so what did he do to himself? He put himself in a situation whereas that Brad Beal contract is just an anchor on the entire organization. He has the no trade, and so you're going to have to work with him to find that next destination. Listen, I've said that we need to watch for Devin Booker to be wanting his way out of there, and to say that I've had enough. And he's from Michigan, so that's what I've put out there. It's a hot take. I'm standing 10 toes down on that take. That is a narrative that Devin Booker is not happy with what's going on with the Suns. I don't know how he could be happy, because you go from being up 2-0 in the finals, and we all know what happened. They Milwaukee stormed back because they had championship culture. And then the next year they had a great season, and who shut it down? So I'm gonna, Emmett, because you brought up a lot, I'm gonna go all the way back to what you were talking about in Cooper Flag, and us putting the Cooper Flag hype and phenomena. Well, I'll respond to what you said. You had a lot of good things to say about Caitlin Clark. Okay, I have no problem. There's no bigger supporter of Cooper Flag than me. He's from Maine. He's from New England. So I'm proud of all of that. Okay. But you are setting this young man up. The expectations are so outlandish, and you're not really being factual, because again, specific to Devin Booker, right? They had the championship year 1, i.e. just like Cleveland, they said, we're going to run it back and we're not going to panic. And they should have made it back to the championship. But who shut that down? Very good. Luka Doncic shut that down. Game 7 in Phoenix under the capable leadership of Jason Kidd. Okay. So this idea, people don't, Luka Doncic, okay, is his skill level, and he's just a winner. And just because he had this last year derailed for no good reason, because people want to talk about things that don't matter. I don't care if he's 50 pounds overweight. I said what I said. Okay. He's hefty. He's bigger than he should be. He wins. It's not who has the best IG posts. It's not who has the best vertical. If that was the case, then Anthony Edwards would have won the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years.
Facts.
But what happened? Okay? Luka Doncic wasn't having any of that, and he shut it down. Okay? So now, all the way back to your point about the Suns and my read and what the heck they can do. They're all the way locked in. They have to, like, and it's not just Bradley Beal who they have to make a Godfather offer to. What are you doing? Even if you get rid of Bradley Beal, you still have Jalen Green and Devin Booker who are not compatible.
Yeah, they were rumored to trade, maybe look at trading Jalen Green, which I completely agree. Like, Jalen Green just wouldn't work out there, and I said it on air. I was on air the night that the whole Kevin Durant trade happened. It's just like, what the hell? Like, Jalen Green, I mean, I think the Suns, they were kind of in a point where Durant's not going to play. Like, who are you going to pick up? Like, they're not trading Şengün. They're not trading Amen Thompson. So it was probably like, okay, we got to take what we can get here. But if I'm the Suns, And I'm looking to move on from Jalen Green because I think that would be the right move. You need more defense. Like him, Devin Booker, and Bradley, they're way too similar. Like you said. But if I'm Jalen Green, and I'm the Suns, I'm trying to get Jalen Green out of there, and I'm trying to recover some draft assets so we can look to rebuild and get this team right for the future. Because I think it's going to take like a year or two for the Suns if everything goes right. And then this is if everything goes like 100% perfect. You don't have to worry about anything happen. You get all the guys you need, then they're going to be fine. But knowing the Suns, like they've dug themselves in a really deep hole in terms of what they did trading for Bradley Beal, what they did going for Kevin Durant. So they're without a lot of their assets. Like, yeah, they got that 10th pick back in the Kevin Durant trade technically, but that pick was their own. Like, they need help bad, and their front office it's one of those other ones that you say the Knicks don't know what they're doing because of how they're handling their coaching hires this offseason. But the Suns, they really don't know what they're doing, and it's like on paper, the casual fan, like when you talk about sorry, I'm going on a while, but I'll wrap it up.
Go ahead.
But when you're talking about like the casual fan and you look on paper like, oh man, Durant, Beal, Booker, like just the people who are the box score nerds or the IG fans, if you will, which there's a lot of those. Like I saw an article a while ago that majority of the people who consume the NBA are IG fans. So when they see that, they're thinking this is going to be great. But you have to look at it from a basketball standpoint where, all right, lack of defense, all these guys are like, there's a difference between being the same player and complementing each other nicely. And Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal were the opposite of being complementing each other nicely. It did not work out. It was brutal. And I hope Kevin Durant can win something with Houston because he deserves to go out great because the way that like it happened in Brooklyn and Phoenix. I mean, some of it maybe was his fault, but like that injury that year that they made the playoffs, that was brutal. You got to feel bad for him for that. So we're Team Durant over here. I don't know about you.
Yeah, Team KD, and I think he's going to bring prosperity over to
yes, sir.
To Houston and put them. You know, they'll go toe to toe with OKC just like Denver is going to go toe to toe with the moves that have been made. Chris in the chat. Talking about the Booker to Detroit is you have Jaden Ivey who you can move. Stewart, another player. If I'm Detroit, you're not getting Cade and you're not getting Jalen Duren.
Yep.
And you could possibly, even if it's Jaden Ivey, maybe Asor Thompson will be another player that they might covet, who I would include in the deal to get Devin Booker. So Detroit has some pieces. A lot of young talent, but we're building around Cade and Jalen Duren, and then we'll, if they get Booker, they would have a third star. I mean, this is all theoretical, but it just comes back. Chris brought up the point about Maluk, or Maluk, however you want to pronounce it. That's them getting Mark Williams, who was a center the Lakers obviously tried to get, and then getting his backup. Some interesting footage that you saw about Ishbia and Rich Paul talking about it. Rich Paul, represents the young man, and Phoenix is a good fit for them. It works. You know what I mean? It on paper they're starting to see a balanced team, a balanced lineup. That would allow them to be competitive. And Emmett, just little bit of stuff in the background, so I'll get you right back as soon as I finish making this point. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? If Devin Booker, it's twofold. It's twofold. Matt Ishbia. Listen, Frank Vogel knows what he's talking about. So you're gonna give Frank Vogel a year and kick him to the curb. I got to step back. Coach Bud knows what he's talking about. You're gonna give Coach Bud a year and kick him to the curb. I frown at that. Okay, and so this carousel of coaches that know, like Monty Williams, even though he was burnt out, same thing. Maybe you could have mended those fences and Monty stayed, but he just seems to have a gambler's casino royale type of approach, and he's making moves that it's just created this inherent instability. As I bring Emmett back, you can go ahead and fire away with whatever you have. But bottom line is this: for all that I just said about Mont Ishbia, the numbers that I'm hearing is 2 years, $150 million for Booker.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Right. So as dysfunctional now, so that's an offer that I almost can't refuse. So you're essentially trading away your prime years to win a championship. You're saying essentially that you're going to end up being, you know, winning a championship like Peyton Manning. You know, when he's with the
Yes.
Broncos, you're gonna win a championship like John Elway. You know, not in your prime years. You're gonna win a Bill Walton championship with the Celtics in your twilight years, and that's how you will check that box off. But you're not going to lead a team to a championship as, you know, he's capable of if he takes that money from Phoenix, because they're not going to be good for some years. Never mind the fact that they're already hamstrung because they're in the stronger conference. You know, it's just, you know, it's a number of things. And the first thing, never mind the roster construction thing. Because, by the way, you know, as much like the reports were, and correct me if I'm wrong, and it sounds factual, that there was fights in the locker room.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Right. And that there's just, and this was the situation with Frank Vogel, whereas like Kevin Durant, as good as a player as he is, you know, he's moody.
Yeah.
And Devin Booker is moody. And Brad Beal, who's probably, you know, maybe more.
Brad Beal's like, yeah, I know what you're going there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Brad Beal, as frustrated as he might be, it goes to another level because he had the upper hand. You can't move me, and everybody knows it. So I can be as much of a jerk or as much as a bad teammate, and I can interject all kind of negative energy, and nobody can do a doggone thing about it, which is going to only make me do more of just trying to tank and trying to crater this situation. So again, the Suns, you know, they have to rebuild their culture. And the point that I'm making, Chris, you can jump in the chat and let me, you know, the roster is no good. And Emmett, I'll kick it back to you. It's a George Steinbrenner situation, meaning Mott Ishbia, just, you got to let go. You got to step back and just empower your basketball people, you know, do the roster things that you need to do. Buy out Bradley Beal. That's, just you're just giving away money, but fine. That's what you do when you have to do things.
Gotta get the bad vibes out of there.
Right. So just get Bradley Beal out of there, and then I wouldn't even give it a chance. Or you know, with Jalen Green and Devin Booker, I just don't see any world where it works. Jalen Green, you couldn't put your best foot forward when you had a championship level coach in Ime Udoka on an up and coming team. By the way, how the heck does Ime Udoka get the Rockets from obscurity to the number 2 seed in the Western Conference? Okay, so that's the type of leadership that you had the chance to come up under, and you wanted to have all this baby mama drama and not show up in the playoffs. So Jalen Green, you've already told me, you're young, you're explosive, you're a good player, but to me,
his girl's gone around with multiple NBA players, by the way. So. Right. I mean, yeah, that's a whole sticky situation. He was posting about her on Instagram the other day. But I will say, the thing is, and I like how you bring up Mike Budenholzer earlier, and you kind of answered the question I was going to ask. And is Devin Booker really that good of a player to coach? Like, you look at guys like Jokic or SGA, where I'm sure a lot of these NBA coaches would be delighted to coach Jokic or SGA because they don't really have that issue. And we've seen Devin Booker have a couple crash outs, and you know, obviously the rumors of them not getting along in the locker room. And Chris, if we're wrong on that, correct us at any time. But yeah, I completely hear you on Jalen Green. And obviously the choice is one or the other. Who are you picking? It's most likely going to be Devin Booker. Like, why? Like, the only reason you choose Jalen Green is if you don't, because Jalen Green's not a $70 million player. That would be the only reason why Jalen Green stays and Devin Booker goes. But the Suns have said it multiple times, and it looks like they're going to stick on it, that they want to build around Devin Booker. The only way Booker is leaving the Suns is during this contract negotiation. He's not going to negotiate a 2-year deal with them if he doesn't want to be there. That just makes no sense. So it's going to get really interesting for the Suns, and I kind of, like, there's Suns fans out there who you actually have to feel bad for, because I could not imagine having to sit through that BS every year for the past, like, 4 years ever since 2021. We can count 2021 BS too because they lost the finals. If you want to call it that, you can. But it's crazy to me, man. They need to do something. They need to get Green out of there, turn him into some picks, or maybe a point guard to pair along with Devin Booker, and then you run that big three with the center. Like, that's the only way the Suns are going to be somewhat contendable. But like you said, West is stacked.
Right. So you get rid of him, or you can't get rid of him because nobody wants to take that on, and then it's just essentially right. Playing on 3 or lottery on 3. You brought the coach that they brought in, kind of a up and coming assistant, but has no real so legs to stand on. So who knows if, and you have all these players that need direction and guidance. So what's the chances that I said, if you can convince Booker to stay because you throw a boatload of money at him, that may be the achievement, for the season. You essentially concede next year. You say next year is just going to be a growing year where we're going to try to do these things like trade Jalen Green, and then you essentially say we're not going to even think about making the play-in. We're not even going to think about making the play-in until 2027. And the fans that pay all the money, well, you're just going to have to you're just going to have to
suck it up.
Suck it up.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Suck it up and endure it. So we talked about this. The folks over here. So Emmett, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the Damian Lillard situation. Some of this may be repeated, but this is
it's your show, man. I'm happy to. I'm a Lillard fan, being a Portland guy, so I'm ready to talk about him again.
Yes, but we have to, and Chris, jump in on this. The move of the day, bombshell in a number of capacities, in a number of facets, is the Bucks saying adios to Dame Lillard. Clearly, he had the ACL injury, so he's going to be out for a part of next year. But saying adios to Dame Lillard in favor of Miles Turner. All right, that's the prize that all of this.
Fourth in the league in blocks, by the way, last year. 2.8 a game, by the way.
Miles Turner, he reinvented himself. He blocks shots. He can shoot threes. He's a great teammate. He helped this. And so another angle of this is Indiana loses Miles Turner because they refused to go into luxury tax when it wouldn't have really.
That was so stupid. Right, I hate that for them. I think when you're we talked about this earlier, but when you're talking about the Pacers and you look at next season, they're without Halliburton. Halliburton tore that Achilles in Game 7. If you're living under a rock, you just learned that now. But I bet everybody in this chat knows exactly what I'm talking about with Halliburton. So you're going to be screwed next year because you're going to be without Tyrese. If I'm the Pacers, my number one priority would have been to get back Miles Turner. And if you go for the Bucks, it's like you got Miles Turner and Bobby Portis. That's like the same. They're not the same guy, but like two bigs like that, kind of crazy. They just obviously re-signed Bobby Portis. I mean, Josh Giddey is still a free agent, as far as I'm aware. Maybe I missed it in the past hour and a half. I haven't really been on social media, and he signed somewhere. But like, if you could get the Giddler on your team, I'd take that over a big over. It's not even anything against Miles Turner. It's really not. But I think the Bucks that you got Portis. You need some guard help to fill up that void of Damian Lillard. So sucks for the Pacers. I mean, it's like a 6 out of 10 signing for the Bucks. It's a little bit above average. I still wish they went a different route though.
Right.
But that's going to lead into the point where you're going to take this. I already know where you're taking this, so I know that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. And so the Bucks. This is their not so subtle way of saying, we're just pushing the chips in the middle, and we've seen enough, and we're moving on. Okay, so Giannis, we did what we could for you with Dame. We brought him in. It hasn't worked. We obviously did not clue you in, okay, because he rushed to social media to let everybody know. All right, and he was first to social media. Chris saying Dame is going to be 35 in 2 weeks, coming off an ACL. I understand the buyout. Okay, Chris, point taken. All right, but you get Giannis on board before you do this. Okay, you make sure that he signs off on this before you make that move. And then again, you're getting rid of Damian Lillard for Miles Turner. You're not getting rid of Damian Lillard, in a sign and trade or whatever to bring in Tyler Hero. There's no right, as I've said before, and I continue to say, you keep Damian. Okay, he's 35 and he's coming off Achilles, so he's not going to be the same as he was. 35 is the new 25. You can quote me on that, folks. In the NBA, the pity pat NBA,
in the NBA, yeah, for sure.
Nobody can touch anybody, and we're talking about flagrant fouls because a guy slipped and fell.
We're gonna have Jokic play until he's like 53.
Right. And you don't have to play every single game, and nobody can touch anybody, and everything is a foul. So, yes, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He has an injury history. It's going to take some time for him to get back, but he will get back. And when he does, he's still going to be Damian Lillard. Okay? And so what I was thinking is that Milwaukee would, because Giannis has put things out there saying, I'm loyal to the soil, just like Dame was. I'm trying to stay. I'm not trying to leave. I'm trying to see, and we haven't, because he is the prized possession. And there was things going on. He was supposed to be having an interest in San Antonio to partner him with Wemby. Okay, we know the Knicks have been lurking, even though they don't know their head from their tail. Okay, well, we'll talk plenty about the Knicks. Okay, but Golden State even more so has been lurking. Okay, plenty of young lions, some draft picks, and a destination that he would want to be. But that hasn't been the prevailing narrative. The story has been Giannis wants to be there. He wants to be in the frozen north. I don't know. What did they do? They eat cheese. What do they?
He likes the cheese curds.
Yeah, the cheese curds, and they got the beer. If you're a beer, I don't know what's jumping off in Milwaukee. I don't know. Okay, but that
is weird. It is.
He's from Greece. He's from a warmer weather, more social environment. But these are the guys that drafted me. I'm comfortable here. I don't mind the 10 feet of snow. I want to stay. And then you pull something like this off. Again, my thinking was that they were going to have some common sense and try to get into the Drew Holiday sweepstakes to bring in because then, right, we're going to talk more about Denver, which we talked about on The Family with my main man, Emmett Douglas. Check it out on X, does a great job. Okay, we're going to talk about
Emmett on air, by the way.
Emmett on air, yes, indeed. Because Denver kept their Fantastic Four together. Stays in the championship conversation. Milwaukee could have had, yes, they got some ice fishing at Christmas. I mean, again, you can go ahead, even though you're not in Minnesota, you can watch the 90s film, Feeling Minnesota. Whatever it is that they do there, he seems to go for it. So great. Okay, but before they can even, and I don't know what the psychosis is. I don't know if this is second apron driven. I don't know what is going on. This is a situation like M. Night Shyamalan had one of those. And he, by the way, I think he's making a film on Cape right now. If I saw the Cape cut, so just shout out to M. Night Shyamalan, his thrillers, The Sixth Sense, so on and forth. But he had one of his thrillers was like there was a government experiment gone wrong, and they let something out in the atmosphere where people just went crazy and started self-destructing for no good reason. And like if you went outside, you could like catch this psychosis, and then you would just like, that's what I feel is happening in the NBA. Okay, I feel like there's a pathogen in the air where these organizations have lost, as my grandfather would say, their cotton picking mind. Lost it. Okay, because they're doing things that, to me, all right, you don't need, all right, if you're in Milwaukee, there's a different way that you could have gone about this. First of all, I say try to maybe get something for Dame rather than just saying goodbye to him. Okay, we know that he wanted to be in Miami, and Pat Riley would have been.
Hey, Andre, I got a question though. So, and Chris would probably be the guy to know this answer because he's been correcting us throughout the night. I know there, at least in the video game, there's something with when a guy is injured, you can't really trade him. So I don't know if that affects that at all. I don't know if that's a thing in real life, but maybe that's why. And also, I think there would be a lot of teams that would take on Damian Lillard, but it's like, who are we really going to give up in exchange for a guy that we're not even going to have for a year with that torn Achilles? And there's still a lot of questions about if he's going to come back healthy, which I think he will. I mean, I said it a lot, like on other shows, that modern medicine, like they are really good with fixing these things now. Yeah, he's on the wrong age of 30. It might affect him. But, I mean, like you said, he can just get breathed on wrong, and they'll probably call a foul on him. So,
correct.
I mean, things are looking good for old players who have injury issues now in the NBA, like him and Kevin Durant. So,
right, indeed. So my knee jerk and then just consistent reaction is that Milwaukee. I'm not upset or it's not about upset. I'm upset about my Knicks, Boston. It doesn't, because I'm not, tied to Milwaukee, in any way, shape, there's no deep connection there. I'm just saying to myself, why did you do this preemptively? Whereas you could have sat back and kind of, these things could have happened, in less of a stark fashion to force the issue. Okay. And it's clear that things were, in my mind, that they are rushing this because everybody's not walking to the beat of the same drum. They are, but you are walking to the beat of the same drum. But you didn't have to do it by smacking somebody in the face because Giannis felt like he was slapped in the face. That's why he responded rather than, go out, have some, hors d'oeuvres or whatever it is that the affluent do. Go out on your yacht, and just sit down and talk this over and say, Giannis, this is what we're thinking. We know that you're probably going to be out. You know what I mean? And instead of now, like that's where they are. The bridge has been burned. But there's just confusion that I don't think that I think ultimately the fan base could have been spared. Right? Because if I'm the fans and I'm okay, the Bucks and they're gonna try to keep it together, but this is released in conjunction, like on one single day. We're waiving Damian Lillard, in order to do yada yada yada. Giannis Antetokounmpo is being traded to Golden State, New York, Miami. Pick your to do yada yada yada. We thank both of these guys. They had a great, but we're moving on. Why not put the ducks in a row that way? Or and again here. Were you afraid? Like, is Miles Turner that much of a prize that it's like, he's a good player. He's a serviceable, like Miles Turner,
Are we forgetting that this man's the most inconsistent rebounder in the NBA, by the way?
Right. I mean, I think that the Kuzma deal was a bigger splash. And now, okay, the analytics people can kind of push back on this because Miles Turner, he defends and yada, yada, yada. But
he's got 113 defensive rating for the analytics people today. So, I mean, say what you want to say about it, but it's like for what the Bucks are doing and what they have on that roster, because you're thinking like, okay, like speculation is Kuzma's probably gone. But let's say they keep him. Like the starting lineup, like you're going to have at the 3, probably Kuzma, Giannis at the 4, Turner at the 5, you're going to put Portis on the bench. Like, I think Bobby Portis is a starting level player. I mean, like I said, I'd rather spend that money on a guard, but I'll look at this from a Damian Lillard side of things because I'm a Damian Lillard fan. I'm a big Blazers fan. Okay. So when you look at him getting released, the fan in me, like, the first thing I thought was, oh, that's effed up. Like, when I read that notification, because the way that, like, you get these notifications reported to you, they don't give you the full scoop. You got to open the app. You got to read to know, like, oh, they cut him? Like, damn. And then you see that, like, yeah, as dirty as it is and as, it leaves the wrong taste in your mouth. But Damian Lillard is shout out to Ephraim Salaam who said this on the Odd Couple earlier, and I really agree with it. He's in the best position he can be because he's never been a free agent before. He's getting paid $22 million a season for the next 5 years. This man can retire in 3 years and still be getting paid for the first 2 years after retirement. $22 million. Like, this man is lucky. But, like, I do understand, like, the relationship side of it, where if you're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, Giannis is like, that's my dog. That's my brother. And you just cut him, like, without telling me. There's some people out there who speculate that Giannis knew about this and he's just saying all this so him and Dame can be tight. I'm not buying that at all because the Bucks have been a really weird organization with some of the moves that they've made over the past couple of seasons. So I think that this Dame thing, they were just like, we're going to do this because I think Giannis is the type of dude where he's a nice guy. He wants to do him. I mean, he's very for the people. I think he'd like kind of be like, I think Damian Lillard should be here. Like, I want to run it back with him. And that's the thing is the Milwaukee, you talk about the weather, how cold it is. Maybe he's a cheese curd fan. I think he's a Chipotle fan, actually, which you can get that.
I love Chipotle.
Yeah. Which you can get that anywhere. But what I will say is you're talking about how he's more like sociable. You know that stereotype. Midwest people are very nice, so maybe that's why he likes it so much.
Indeed, here in the Northeast, people, looking at their stocks, and portfolios, you walk right past you. So right. He could have been convinced to stay. This is, you know, again, this is a divorce to me that could have been a separation with some reconciliation. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like right now, what a line's been crossed, and we got to call. You know what I mean? If you've seen Intolerable Cruelty with George Clooney, funny movie, Coen Brothers. Shout out to the Coen Brothers. We got to call the lawyers. We're squadding up. This is and by the way, on this topic, when we discuss, we'll get into a little bit of the NFL, and I'm not. But talk about the Jaguars, and you talked about they got a good person there for Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to be
Liam
up and coming.
Cohen.
But I'm a huge Travis Hunter fan. Think it's
Me
going to
too.
impact the game on both sides of the ball. I love but doggone it, I was going through school. This man got married without a prenup. This young man got married. I had no problem. Be happy. People was throughout the season in his Heisman Trophy season. They were saying all type of things. He was, again, as we say, loyal, and that's I've been with her. I don't care about nothing, But dog on it, you're Travis Hunter, man. Sign the doggone prenup. Goodness. Okay, we'll get to that more in depth. Or if you guys, Chris, and everyone want to jump on, we're bouncing around back and forth. But that was wild to me. I hope again, they have a successful, happy marriage, and there's no. But the connection to the Buccaneers, excuse me, Buccaneers. The connection to the Bucks is prenup or no prenup. This divorce is official. Okay, the ways have parted. And they've joined the AJ DeBanta sweepstakes.
It's a custody battle.
Right? They've joined they've joined the AJ sweepstakes. The Giannis era has concluded. And we'll see. Maybe they'll get lucky again, and Danny Ainge or the Celtics leadership will take Kelly Olynyk instead of the next Giannis to allow them to have a first ballot Hall of Famer. Who knows? But
Jeez, that's brutal. I didn't even think. I remember that draft too. That was Anthony Bennett, Otto Porter Jr. Who else was in that draft? Kelly Oubre was in that draft. Victor Oladipo was in that draft. I remember that draft pretty well. Cody Zeller, Mason Plumlee, Tristan Thompson.
Yep.
No, Tristan Thompson. He might have been before. No, he was there. Yeah, you're right. And then Giannis, I mean, it did take Giannis a bit to come into his own. But, yeah, that is crazy that y'all got Olynyk. And, oh, wow.
Right. So the Celtics, I mean, the Milwaukee, that's the next time that you're going to be, who you are. Right? That's how they've won their championships. They drafted Lou Alcindor, and Oscar Robertson happened to still be around. Okay, that's a championship. Okay, let's fast forward, 50 years. Okay, and then Giannis is coming to his prime, and he's got a team around him, and they win the championship. But as far as I'm concerned, it's all done. For the next number of blue moons, decades on end. And just my only, I just didn't. It was inevitable in my mind. It's inevitable. Like they went for broke, and they went. You go for broke sometimes, and you go broke. Every story is not Moneyball. Everybody is not Billy Bean. Everybody is not going to thread the needle. We all think we are. We will do this, okay? But that's why the casino always wins. Shout out to the casino. Shout out to Nicholas Pileggi. Right? I'm referencing a lot of things right now. But
gotta take a note of how many references you drop per show.
right. It's just a number of them, and that's the Bucks. How I see. Okay, they had it. It's gone, and so good night and good luck. The next part of this, I'm seeing what I just want to the resolution, because for me, Golden State won. I'll put New York 2, just because New York is closer than Miami, and then Miami 3. It's going to take, the only thing with Miami, quietness is kept. With Miami is, I'm hearing that they're trying to make a move on Ja, and they want to convince Ja to head down to South Beach.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if Jaw's going to be traded. I mean, that whole organization's kind of a diaper fire. I mean, you did trade away Desmond Bain, but they also
Right.
just did extend JJJ, who is also dealing with a turf toe injury that requires surgery, may I add. So the Jaw thing's interesting. I don't think that he's going to get traded, but what I will say on that topic, a couple months back, like the couple days after Taylor Jenkins, who was our head coach from a good majority of last season, after he got fired, I believe it was Sam Amick, and don't quote me on who reported this, but they were reporting that the Jaw situation gave them De'Aaron Fox vibes. Like, it's not like one of those things that's going to happen right now, but keep it in the back of your mind. So I'm not saying this summer, but like the way that he was reporting it is, if things don't go right for Memphis this year, and it's like some more of like the Jaw grenade celebrations, which, I mean, that's a whole different argument if it's, bad or good or whatever you want to call that. But if that happens for a whole nother year, then I could see this being a thing next summer. But how about this with Miami? What are the odds that Damian Lillard and Giannis team up again in Miami? Because Lillard was linked to Miami. Giannis was linked to Miami. Every superstar that's out there for trade, as you know, is getting linked to the Miami Heat. I mean, it's a good possibility because Lillard, he might pull a Russell Wilson where he's like, you know what? I'm getting my bread already. I'll take less money to go to a team that I want to play for. Maybe he likes Giannis that much. He wants to team up with them again with that Heat culture and Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, it makes sense to me because the Heat, and you said it right there, like that is in line. They're speaking his language with the Heat. Now, of course, it's going to be a Celtics situation. It's going to be a Red Auerbach, Bill Russell situation. Whereas, yeah, Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, they have 3-4 hour practices, but not for Dame, right? So when the Celtics win the championships, yeah, all the rest of you guys are practicing today. Bill Russell's reading the newspaper, okay? Right? Because Red Auerbach was the first, and this is something that Uncle Shannon talks about. Shout out to Nightcap. We don't play or hate, we congratulate around here. But he talks about, Coach Shanahan said, I'm going to treat you fairly. I'm not going to treat you all the same. I'm going to treat you fairly. I'm not treating you all the same. Okay? So Shannon Sharp, but you ain't getting the same treatment that John Elway's getting. Okay? So Dame, just the way that he's built, and whether it be the Oakland connection, whether it be him being a mid-major guy, he talks about the, coming up at Weber State, how that was crucial and so essential for him being successful in the pros because they built him up and he came up under that coaching. Jimmy Butler says the same thing about being in JUCO. This is what the whole, and we'll talk a little bit about this because we will talk about the preps because they're going into their live period season right now, which we are going to be talking about over the next week or so because this is when the recruiting, this is when the Cooper Flags of the world become the Cooper Flags of the world.
But, yes, brothers at like University of Maine, right?
Yeah.
Cooper Flags brother? Yeah.
Yeah. I think his name is Ace.
Ace Flag. That's a sick name. Yeah. Ace Flag. That's awesome.
And they played together. What was good is Cooper did not play up as he was coming up the grassroots circuit, even though he could have because he's this phenom. So he played 15U when he was 15. He played 16U when he was 16. And then essentially, this is what the privileges that you have when you're the number one player, which was pretty cool, is like he did not leave UMaine to play for the BABCs of the world. That's the powerhouse here in the Commonwealth. Expressions is the other powerhouse. Expressions is the Nike team. BABC moved over to Adidas and has BABC this year is just ridiculous. They've regained their swagger. But the point is, the AJ DeBances of the world, that he's an Expressions kid. The Terrence Clarks of the world, T. Clarks, RIP, he's an Expressions kid. So they've produced the preeminent NBA guys recently, even though Leo Papil and BABC is doing his thing once again. But right back to Ace Flag and back to Cooper Flag and how he's built. And we are going to get all the way back to your point about Emmett that you made. We're going to get back because I have not forgotten. Okay, in terms of the hype surrounding Cooper Flag and how it needs to be modified, how it needs to be curtailed. Okay, for a number of reasons. Okay, chief of which is being actually factual, empirical, and realistic. Okay, but one of this is why he's going to be successful as far as I'm concerned in the NBA, just like Dylan Harper and others. He says if you're the best player in the gym, you got to find another gym. He did not jump over to a superstar team and play with them. He played with his hometown guys from Maine. And by the way, all you NIL phenoms out there, look at the results. Okay, did he lose any money? Okay, no. Did was anything taken away because he didn't skip steps? No. Okay, and so just food for thought as we're in the live period, the recruiting period. Okay, now back to Dame and Miami and why it's intriguing. Okay, because he's one of the guys. Yes, we talked about it. He's not going to do all the things everybody else is going to do because nobody's stupid. Okay, we're not going to have Dame blow an Achilles in the third hour or 52nd minute of a practice. Nobody's doing that. But the way that they run things, never mind just not tanking. But like Miami, how many times have they been the 8th seed and made the NBA Finals or the 7th seed? It's more than once. Okay, no matter what seed that they are, there's such an institutional and organizational strength. Never mind the fact that who the heck is Gabe Vincent? Who the heck are these guys? When we have to go back, I'll mention it again and again and again. That 2023 team without Tyler Hero. Those undrafted, unheralded players went toe-to-toe with JB and JT and Derek White. We didn't have Drew at that point in time. And by the way, we lost that series because we didn't have Drew. Okay? But those unheralded players, the Duncan Robinsons, who's from New Hampshire, went to Williams, which is a small Ivy here in the Commonwealth, right? They went toe-to-toe with the max player guys and won. Okay? That's Heat culture. That's player development.
Facts.
That's not. I'm not putting you, tucking you in at night. Okay. I'm not babying you. I'm not gonna. You know what I mean? We're not doing any of this foolishness. You're an adult. You're gonna be treated like an adult. You're gonna come up under some leadership, and you're going to grow. Okay. So Dame is all about that. Yeah. Max Strauss. The list goes on. Good pull.
Yeah. Max Strauss is a dog. Yeah.
So yes, Dame. I think, now that he got his money, the Heat would be a good place for him. Good points have been brought up. You have to bring him along slowly because he has the injury history and he's not getting any younger. But once he gets back right, they will, right? Because they're used to, it's another thing. We talked about the Patriots. We'll talk a little bit more about the Patriots for this show. I talked about it on the family, Chris. Excuse me. But, just building and developing the players. We don't have to necessarily do it through free agency. We don't have to pay this guy. We can take a flyer. One of the guys that they have that I love is Jaime Vasquez.
Jaime Jaquez.
Yes. Love him.
Former UCLA Bruin, by the way.
Yes, coming from the Mick Cronin tradition. He's a gamer. Reminds me a lot of just a long career there. Reminds me a little bit of Udonis Haslem. Another 4-year guy that just had a very long NBA career and was.
You never see those 4-year guys earlier. I was thinking about that when we brought up Damian Lillard because he was like, 22, 23 coming out. So, yeah, I think Dame also played 4 years. And his Walmart version Splash Bro, CJ McCollum as well, I'm pretty sure was too.
Right. CJ, the only reason why I will even give the Wizards a flyer because they have a sane man in the building, to rebuild that culture. So, yes, that is, as J Mac would say, spicy. That Dame would go to Miami, because he needs a home. And, he's on South Beach and he's in an organization that he prefers. And then that would be a part of the anchor to reel in Giannis. But I said it and I'm going to say it again. Miami, quietness is kept, right? So they lost out on the Drew Holiday sweepstakes, and that went against them. But they are, they're in the hunt. They're in the conversation for Giannis, and they're in the hunt. They're in the conversation for players like Ja Morant. These guys, Giannis is already out of there. Ja Morant's in a situation, whereas, and the other thing that I'll say why Miami would be a good place for Ja Morant, it's because, he and Taylor Jenkins was that guy. He's you need somebody to get through to you. Okay?
Yes.
You need somebody that has the gravitas, and that's Eric Spoelstra and that's Pat Riley. So Ja, it's almost a situation and whereas I'm gonna bring up a name, Coach Huggins, Bob Huggins. He recruited the players that he wanted those players that were rough around the edges. He wanted the Nick Van Exels. He wanted the Kenyon Martins. He wanted those players that had that edge. And in another organization, right? I don't know if Kenyon Martin would have been a number 1 overall pick and had the successful NBA career he did if he didn't play for Coach Huggins. But Huggins, he was a guy. I want those gritty players. That's what I'm looking for. Those players, almost like Al Davis with the Raiders. Okay, if you don't have a misdemeanor, I don't know if I can draft you. Okay, if I haven't seen you in the police report, I'm not comfortable with you. Okay, I need somebody that got some, you know what I mean? I need that if you're gonna play for me. Okay, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm able to get through to them. I can get through to them and maximize that great potential, and you can still be yourself. Larry Brown and Allen Iverson is another one of these odd couples where it's just, you know what I mean? You're Allen Iverson. You're coming from the hip hop tradition. I'm Larry Brown. I'm coming from like a Midwest, Kansas tradition. Okay, but we're both serious about this basketball. Okay, and that's the
it's their mutual interest,
right? And we're gonna connect through that. And you can be who the heck you want to be. Just don't be crazy and stupid and hurt people unnecessarily. Like, I'm not asking, right? Corey Blunt's the good pull, Chris, right?
That's a good one.
Like, you can be yourself. Nobody's and they have this recognition. Coach K is another one that's able. Coach K is a Chicago guy. A great. You look at him. Oh,
Chicago.
Duke. He's a Duke. Silver spoon. No. Coach K is first generation Polish American Chicago. Okay, so these kids, the Jaleel Okafers or the Jabari, whoever it is, like, we're speaking the same language. So all the way back to Ja in Miami, you know what I mean? I think that's intriguing for him, and more so because Memphis is in, they're trying this new thing, right? It's a changing of the guard, and it's remains to be seen if they're going if the grass is greener on the other side. It might be, but if to your point, Emmett, if it's not and it starts kind of slow and they're in rebuild mode and they're in the AJ DeBanza sweepstakes, then Josh starts to say, okay. And I bottom line, how does this relate? And we'll move on to some other things in free agency. Chris, certainly jump on. We did this, in terms of the winners and the losers. We'll touch on Denver, touch on Orlando, touch on the Hawks in terms of the winners. The losers are the people that are acting like the Red Sox.
The Lakers.
Yeah. Now, and we have to be well. So let me just wrap up Dame, Miami. I like it. Miami is just they're lurking. They're lurking for some big fish, and we'll see how it plays out. But in terms of probable things, not possible but probable, is I have Giannis going to Golden State. Let me just put that out there. I'm not going to give you – I have Giannis going to Golden State, and Golden State saying, we'll give you Porzingis. I'm sorry. Apologies in advance.
Pozinski.
Thank you, Emmett.
Yeah.
We'll give you, I know Jonathan Kuminga because he's a New York Renaissance guy. You know what I mean? We'll give you Kuminga. We'll give you Moody. Okay, we'll give you maybe Jackson Davis. We'll give you just young Lions. We'll give you some draft capital.
Do you give up? Do you throw Jimmy buckets in that trade?
Oh, hell no.
But I mean, you do got Pozinski. I mean, like, you want to keep your young guys. So the thing with Giannis to the Warriors is I actually do like it a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense because for these first few years, hypothetically, let's say he goes there and he's playing for the Warriors this season. For the first couple of years, you're going to have Stephen Curry. So immediately you're going to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. I'm not going to go as far as to say that the Golden State Warriors would be NBA champions with Giannis Antetokounmpo on their team because the West is a very, very stacked conference. We were talking about the East being stacked on my show earlier. The West is even more stacked. So it's going to be hard, but they are going to be in that mix, right? So you talk about the first few years. After that, you already have your culture set. Giannis isn't that old. You're still gonna have a bunch of Giannis years left in the tank. So if you're Golden State, you're thinking all right, we're gonna be good for maybe a championship in the next couple years, and then we have our future superstar after Stephen Curry when he retires. I mean, Curry said that he wants 3 to 5 years before he retires. So it makes sense why the Golden State Warriors. They're obviously. They trade for Jimmy Butler back in February at the deadline. They are in the Giannis sweepstakes. Every time that gets brought up, the Warriors always get brought up. They're trying to get Curry another championship. It's obvious what they're trying to do. And I think Giannis would make the most sense. I mean, you're going to have to give up probably like 3 or 4 first-round picks along with Podziemski, along with Moody. You might have to give up a GP too if you have to. Like, it's going to be really weird to see what they give up, but I love Giannis to the Warriors. I think that could be great, especially that defense. If you can have a year or two of Giannis and Draymond, that would be elite.
Right.
Don't know how the money would work there, but
yeah, you need some capologists to make it happen. But I just think he would go for it. I think the Knicks, it's gonna a little bit more of okay, but I just think Golden State, even though it's a smaller city and Bay Area, whatever. I mean, obviously he's not gonna work. It's expensive, but he's a 1%, so you ain't gotta worry about any of that stuff.
yeah.
It's just seamless in terms of and Giannis, right? It's a type of situation, and I mean, he's almost like a Mark Aguirre that needs an Isaiah Thomas. Okay, he's looking for that lead guard to partner with, and I think that had a lot to do with Dame. I'm the small forward, power forward. So I got the front court taken care of.
You get the back court.
Yeah, I need that lead guard to partner with. That's going to take care of that angle and that person, because Giannis's free throw shooting got a lot better. And he worked on it, and that had a lot to do when he won the championship. He can shoot free throws, he can shoot, but he's not that, he's not necessarily a clutch shooter. He can get to the, he can produce offense vis-a-vis getting the free throw line and making free throws. But I think he is looking for that guy that can just get that bucket. And Golden State has 2 of those players that can, if we just need to run something that schemes a high percentage shot, I know that if Steph Curry gets that open look, he's making it ball game. If Jimmy Butler gets that open look, he's making it ball game. And so that, along with the other intangibles, warm weather, Silicon Valley, you get on the cutting edge of AI and rule the world, all the rest of that stuff. So that's Giannis. He was leaning. And then the Bucks just threw him out the door. They didn't push. They DJ Jazzy Jeff Uncle Phil threw Giannis out the door. That's my view of what happened today with this Dame Lillard waving him. So he's gone. Golden State. If Golden State won, I'll say Miami and the Knicks won 2 A and B. I can't give my Knicks too much credit. The Knicks. Because how effective and successful can a ship's journey be if you have no rudder? Okay, where I'm over here on the coast. If that ship just sets sail into the mighty Atlantic without a rudder, are you going to land in any particular destination? Who the heck knows? Okay, so the Knicks need to get that in order and then get their culture in order. Mike Brown certainly knows his business. He can command respect. Yada yada yada. But. And Emmett, I talked about this with Chris. Interested in your feedback. The reason I'm in favor of Mike Brown over Taylor Jenkins because he has a little bit more gravitas. Okay, he's a little bit longer in the tooth than Taylor Jenkins. Even though I think Taylor is capable and would be, he could do the job. The only thing that I'm leery about with Mike Brown is, he used to be a 3 yards in a cloud of dust coach, meaning he used to be a half-court Greg Popovich, ground and pound, like we're going to play in the half court and lock you down, and that's how we're going to win, right? And so when he was the coach of the Lakers for that 5 days, right, and then he secured all the money that, because it just didn't work when the Lakers brought in Steve Nash, but Mike Brown was the coach, and so it just wasn't working, so he was the coach for like 3 days and got all his money, and then they brought in Mike D'Antoni to coach that team in the post-Phil era, because D'Antoni was the better coach for Nash to run the up and down style where he was going to be effective. But after Mike Brown had his odyssey of being in the quote unquote wilderness as an assistant coach, even though he was a head coach, but he was a top assistant for many, many moons, specifically with the Golden State Warriors, when he got his next opportunity deservedly, before he was run out of town for no good reason, and now that team, i.e. the Sacramento Kings, are okay, as I like to say, dumpster fire, or are the what is the term? The southbound the southbound side of a northbound train.
Yeah.
So the team, right? They're just they're as Rob Parker would say, they're mashugana to me. These teams
Yeah.
that fire these good coaches, shout out to Rob G. Excuse me, Rob Parker. Mashugana. Okay,
Too many Robs, Andre.
Too many. So that's what do you think about Mike Brown to the Knicks, and will he be able to curtail his pace and space offense to fit the half-court scheme that is most conducive to Jalen Brunson in this roster?
That's a good question. I think the Knicks, before I get into Mike Brown, they're and I tweeted this into Arnie Spanier and Aaron Torres the other night. The Knicks are a very desperate team. Okay, let me go back in the time machine here, as Ben Maller would say. So if we go back to, I believe it was June 1st. It was end of May for sure. Whenever they fired Thibodeau, I was trying to get the date there, but I messed that one up. My bad. So the day they fired Thibodeau, I remember being on air that night, and I was telling them, like, I had a bunch of people on my panel. We were talking about it, breaking it down, and I was saying that there's no way the New York Knicks don't have a plan. And I was half right. They kind of had a plan, but it was a measly one. They were like, let's just try and steal current head coaches and hope that works. That didn't work. Okay, so you get rejected by Jason Kidd, Ime Udoka, Chris Finch, like all these very up-and-coming head coaches who have very great situations in front of them with said teams. So now you're getting to a point where Mike Brown, he had a glimpse of greatness where he took that Kings team to the playoffs at one time. Other than that, and like the whole Lakers thing, that was sketchy. The way it ended in Sacramento was sketchy. But you can also make that same argument. It's like Sacramento doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Like you look at Mike D'Antoni or Mike Brown. Mike D'Antoni actually was rumored like a couple weeks ago. He was he was like plus 2,000 as a betting favorite, but he was still out there. So when you look at Mike Brown, it's like the Knicks. It has to be him or Jenkins. I wish it was Mike Malone because I'm a big Mike Malone fan, as is Andre. And we were talking about this earlier, and I think the only reason Mike Malone isn't in any sort of contact with this job is I think Karl-Anthony Towns is soft. And I'm giving you guys a lot of hot takes here in a very short amount of time, so I'm sorry. But let's go back in the time machine again. All right. So do you guys remember back in 2019, Karl-Anthony Towns was also coached by Thibodeau on the Timberwolves. And Thibodeau is the type of coach where he is going to yell and he is going to get aggressive with it because he cares. It ain't him trying to be a douche. It's just that he cares about the game. He wants you to succeed. And his agent, who is now, ironically, the president of the New York Knicks, was allegedly involved in that firing. What does that tell me? That Karl-Anthony Towns does not want one of these coaches who's going to be hard-nosed. It's just too much of a coincidence. Like, I think Taylor Jenkins, it could be interesting. I think Mike Brown, I don't like that one as much, to tell you the truth. I think Jenkins, there were some interesting points he had there with Ja. I mean, we forget that, like, they've been close to doing some crazy things in the playoffs a couple times. But what I will say is, they were interviewing Don Staley for their head coaching job this weekend. And if I am the New York Knicks, I mean, it's nothing against her coaching. I think what she's done for South Carolina and women's basketball has been great. Talk about setting a culture, Don Staley's done it. But there's two things that I have a big issue with, a big glaring issue with for her, is first of all, she's kind of known as like an attitude type of woman. Like she's known as she's kind of whiny, and that's part of this. The second part is you're going to New York. You're going to one of the top 3 biggest media markets in the entire world. The New York media is the most unhappy group of people ever. They will anything goes wrong and they are ready to drop a sledgehammer on your face. Like they will pick you apart, and they're ready for it. Like it's like they're so prepared to pick you apart in the New York media that it's like they've been preparing for 3 months, just waiting for the bad thing to happen. So if I'm her, and me and Barry talked about this last night on my show, is you're using this as a leverage move to get to the WNBA. So that leaves you Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins. Either one of those, I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I'm really not. Both of those guys. I think I could understand taking both of them. I'd probably take Jenkins myself, just seeing how everything went so bad over the last, year and a half in Sacramento. But man, it's bad because the last thing I'll say on this is if we go back in the time machine again for the third time in this point, we go back to the day Thibodeau was fired. One thinking that the New York Knicks actually had somewhat of a competent plan. You're thinking this is a fun job, but the more and more time that goes on, the more you realize like maybe the Knicks, like, you don't want to go to that bleep show front office because clearly it's a bleep show. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They were just hoping and praying that Jason Kidd would get cleared to interview with them, which is a stupid strategy because if you're the Mavericks, you like what Kidd did. He took you to a championship. Why the hell would you let him go to a Knicks team that just made the Eastern Conference Finals when you have Cooper Flag coming in? It makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, 0 cents. The only reason I think that is because Jason Kidd was not privy to or allowed to weigh in on the Luka Doncic debacle, and so he felt some type of a way about that, so now that ownership group, I think they extension for him, they certainly extended Kyrie, so there were some fences that needed to be mended, and in my mind, Leon Rose thought that he could drive a wedge up in there and pry Kidd away because I do feel, that, if again, Jason Kidd's an elite coach. He's a proven elite coach. But if I build up a championship team and then you just pull the rug out from under me and everybody else, I'm looking at you different. I'm giving you the side eye.
The fact that they got the number one pick is still crazy to me.
Yeah, they were gifted the number one pick because the NBA has the draft is, it is what it is. Players go conveniently to where, they would fit the best.
And the San Antonio Spurs just ironically get the second pick. Like, that's not anything crazy.
Right. But that's, it's all the way back to Patrick Ewing going to the Knicks. And, there is a method to the madness, if you will. But so, you brought up a really good point there so I just have to deconstruct a couple things that you said. So again, relative to Kidd, why the Knicks would even put that out there is because I think that there was an opportunity for, as they say politically, détente. Meaning, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We don't like each other. You mess, but I don't know this other person that but maybe I can get myself in there. As the United States, from the historical perspective, did with China under Nixon, to kind of alleviate the issues that were going on between the United States and the USSR vis-a-vis the Cold War, right? So that's what Leon Rose was trying.
There goes that history teacher in you.
There you go, the history teacher. So Leon Rose was trying, but the thing that is just insanity. Okay, you don't give up. I don't care. And you brought up some interpersonal things that resonate. Okay, but here's my rejoiner. So first of all, this baby, the way that these folks allow personal things to get in the way of the bottom line, money and winning, really
it's just so bad.
It boggles my mind. And so for Leon Rose, what I'm saying is all of that is true. And there was an opportunity, but it wasn't a sure thing. So you shouldn't have moved off a sure thing, which was Tom Thibodeau. Never mind the fact that he's my favorite coach, but you don't move off of a sure thing, which is the Knicks were going to be a championship team next year. Yes, there are things that could have been worked on, Mr. Leon Rose. So you bring in a coach. Tibbs needs help with offense. Bring in an offensive assistant coach to help him. There's ways that you can do it. This is what Brad Stevens did after the 2023 debacle that I will say again and again and again, because he admitted.
Thibodeau got the Knicks to an Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 30 years, by the way. So, like, that's something that you got to keep in mind when talking about this. Like, he did something that any other head coach in a long time hasn't been able to do. So, shout out to Thibodeau and shout out to Rob Parker, because he, on the Monday before Thibs got fired, was like, he's going to get fired, Calvin! And we are all like, yeah, Rob, you're smoking something. The next day, what do you know what happened? So, shout out Rob.
Rob had those New York connections, being from the Big Apple. So even though it was bad for the Big Apple, he had the inside information. Emmett, you bring up something that's interesting that I have to deconstruct, relative to. Listen, okay, so Leon Rose is a Cat guy, and then he becomes the guy for the Knicks, and then Cat comes there, and then Tibbs gets fired. Listen, I see what you're saying, and I'm gonna take a different angle on that, because, like, the Knicks' dream, the hope was always to bring Karl Anthony Towns back to the motherland, right? He's from Jersey. Shout out to Don Bosco. Okay, so that was always in the best of all possible worlds. That's why I had no issue with giving up the draft picks. Yes, we overpaid for Mikal Bridges, but we brought La Cosa Nova together. Okay, you had the foundations to build a you had a championship foundation. Okay, I wasn't for getting rid of DiVincenzo. I would have given up McBride and some draft picks to keep DiVincenzo. Why? Because it worked. Brunson, Bridges, DiVincenzo, and Hart. The Villanova connection, Jay Wright, hard coaching, efficient coaching, players that respond to it, championships. So the thing with Cat and Leon Rose is once Leon Rose came in, Karl Anthony Towns was already on the table. And the conversation was, can we get Cat and Devin Booker together? Because they're both Leon Rose Kentucky guys. Can we convince one, and then that's going to bring the other, and then we'll get both of them? Now, that didn't work out. Devin Booker was trying to do a championship thing in Phoenix. But here's the thing. I think, because honestly, the points that you're making are 100%. Listen. Okay, I got to make a couple points on it. I got to make a couple points. It just has to be what it has to be. Listen.
Go ahead.
Okay? Because
keep cooking.
Yeah, because it's just, Karl Anthony Towns, right? You wanted to get in on a going thing. Once he saw what Tibbs, I say again, once he saw what Tibbs and also Leon Rose, once he saw what was building in New York, that's when players wanted to come to New York. They didn't want to be a part of it from from scratch, from the studs. But as it got built up, now people are talking. Now LeBron comes to New York and has the New York Knicks towel around his shoulders. Okay, now people are talking about New York as a destination of choice. Once we, as in Thibodeau and Leon Rose and these players buying in together, got the movement going, now you want to come in and be loyal to the soil. So with Karl Anthony Towns, I'm not necessarily sure, even though he is sensitive and in his feelings, I don't think he went to Leon Rose and said, get rid of this guy. I think it was between Leon Rose and Tibbs, two bullheaded individuals, and nobody's going to give. And then you cut your nose off to spite your face. Because, Karl Anthony Towns wanted New York, knowing that Tom Thibodeau is New York. He wanted this team.
Yeah, and maybe it's more on the agent. You're right. I mean, I don't hate what you're saying. And Jalen Brunson did come out and defend Tom Thibodeau, which I thought was really interesting in that point of view. When you're looking at it like, who are you going to take input from more, Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns? I'm picking Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson, like, just the way he is, like, he's clearly your number one. I mean, some people might, it's Cat. No, it's Brunson. It's 100% Brunson. And he was coming out defending him. That really shows volume, and that really shows the dysfunction that the Knicks have in terms of the front office to the players, because I guarantee Brunson wasn't the only one that liked what Thibodeau was doing. I bet Mitch Robb didn't mind it. I mean, Mitch Robb's been there the whole time. Like, why would he be mad now, you know? Like, it has to be, and I know that the coach is always a scapegoat when we're talking about sports and teams getting bounced in the playoffs. The coach is always the first one to go and take that blame. But this has to be one of the weirder firings we've seen in a long time, because they were 1 win away or 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. If they would have locked in a little bit, they could have been exactly where the Pacers were. So it's like they were so close. I mean, I still don't think firing Tibbs is the answer, but I mean, we're already past that point. Now we just got to figure out what the Knicks are doing. And the thing that I can't stress enough about this move, Andre, is if they don't do this, right, if they don't get this right, you're going to set your franchise back more. Like, you're so close to the NBA Finals. It's not hard. It's so much easier to step back is a point in what I'm trying to make here. And I'm worried that they're going to bring in a first-time coach. I mean, they're saying it's Mike Brown, Taylor Jenkins. I don't even know. Like, that's how weird this situation has been. I mean, if it's a first-time coach, you're asking for it. But Yeah, it's horrible. I hope that the Knicks can find their head coach because you really got, as much as their fans may be obnoxious celebrating after just advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals, you do kind of have to feel bad for them because New York's a franchise, like a market that should win, like LA and like Boston, but they just haven't won in a while. Like Yankees got embarrassed by the Dodgers, Knicks haven't done anything, bum-ass Jets haven't done anything, Giants haven't won since Eli. You do got to feel bad for them.
I mean, hey, we as a New York, we'll take your sympathy. You don't want to give away any gifts. So we'll take a little bit of sympathy. But right now, it's not even it's the insult to injury. It's the sympathy is with a grain of salt, but it's things are when it's self-inflicted, that's what drives you to another level of just rage and unrest. And I think with the Knicks, that's my overall point is, to what you're saying, I don't believe it was a revolt. And you alluded to it because you can't have a mutiny unless you have the numbers, and there's not the numbers, right? Carl Anthony and the reporting after the Indiana series was that the Carl Anthony Towns teammates were frustrated with him because of the things that he was or was not doing. Now, I have to bring in the further cultural point within this to say, to kind of, so my specific point is that this was a tug of war between Rose and Tibbs, and it just got to the point where Leon Rose didn't have anything else. He just had he wasn't in the right. He was just his superior. And you see this happen? Okay, thank you.
I know what you mean.
So let me tell you what I mean. This is a Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson situation. That's what this is.
Okay.
That's what this is.
I don't hate that.
That's what's going on right now. In terms of, it has nothing. If we could just avoid each other, if we could just avoid each other, we could win more. We could win together.
So you're saying Leon Rose wants a yes man?
I'm saying that Leon, it just got to that point. It's out of character for Leon. That's what's crazy to me because you don't. But that's the level it got to. Unfortunately, whereas two highly capable, competent people that were both right in their own way just couldn't get away from each other and just let things cool down. And Emmett, you brought up a really good point that added to this is the fact that they're in New York and you have all these other people who don't know what the heck they're talking about, but they might work for the New York Times, or they might work for the New York Post, or they might work for whoever. They're all interjecting themselves into this, and you got to do this. You got to do that. If you don't do this,
you have to take, I like how you bring that up because I'll add to that. You have to take the reporting that they do with a grain of salt, like those New York guys, because there's so many of them.
Yeah, and it accelerated the situation. We didn't need acceleration. We needed we needed cooler heads to prevail. We needed everybody to go lay on a beach somewhere and get away from each other and then revisit this in like a month. Okay, that's what should have happened, but instead it went freaking nuclear. We had a Chernobyl level disaster. No disrespect, and because that's but that's the level of
that was wild.
It just melted down, and then now we're seeing the fallout from just this meltdown, just across the board. Bottom line, meltdown. Okay, and so you brought up, you said what you said, and it helped me in that. Really, you're looking at the lesser of two evils is what's happening. Like you don't like Mike Brown, okay, Taylor Jenkins, okay. None of them is ideal. You're not trying to find like who is the best coach. We're just saying what is.
Everyone available. Mike Malone is the best option, but they're not interviewing him. And that goes back to the playing style thing I brought up earlier.
Right, and I'm hooked because Mike. The way that he plays, which is beautiful to watch, and it's exciting. That's again, it's the same thing as like he plays too close. You don't bring a Mike D'Antoni, a 7 seconds or less. Not that Mike Malone's system is a little bit different than 7 seconds or less. There's a little bit more variations and reads and all the rest of that stuff. But then this is a half court, slower pace, defensive chess match team. And so again, like I said, we'll see. Both of those coaches can win that way. I lean towards Mike Brown. If you bring in Taylor Jenkins, fine. Connecting to the Giannis point, and Emmett, we got a couple. I'm gonna go for about another half an hour. So
Right up to Ben show.
right up to Mr. Maller. We'll
You gotta go make some. Speaking of, if any of these guys in here are Maller listeners, Mike the Leprechaun's gonna be there tonight, and this is more for me and Andre, but I feel like I have to share this. That man, I think I just broke his heart. Because he was like, I hope Lorena doesn't lock the door or call out. Well, she's on vacation, and I just saw that on Instagram. So sorry, Mike, if you're listening to this, you're not meeting her. I was like, bro, this man, like, Glenn Scott, I believe, was making the jokes about the clam chowder. If you guys, Mike the Leprechaun guy, he's from the Commonwealth as well. And I believe he's actually a teacher too. Very ironically, he's kind of like he's like a really creepy version of Andre. So yeah, he's meeting Ben Maller. So Fox Sports Radio, if you want to hear some chaos at 11:45 Pacific time tonight.
Indeed,
so
tune in. Mike the Leprechaun guy is gonna have his takes. It's unfortunate, the whole crew. You think a lot of maybe the next trip you'll meet Lorena, but not this specific.
He's gonna come back out just to meet her. I hope we know that. He's gonna make sure.
Hey, there's no shame in that whatsoever.
No shame in his game.
no shame in your game, and
yeah,
shoot your shot and see where it goes.
You miss all the shots you don't take.
That's right.
That's like an air ball, but back on topic.
At least you shot it. At least.
Yeah.
But listen. So NBA, we talked. The rich are getting richer. There's teams. For me, as I said, the Magic, power move, bringing in Bane, moving towards the top of the Eastern Conference. Obviously, this Houston, they're going to move to the top of the Western Conference. And then I'm
so hyped to watch Houston play.
Yeah, I just feel in terms of free agency, there's just a number of other dominoes. And so right now, it's the beginning, the first tremors, frankly, of this, but wherever Giannis lands, and it's not going to be, he's leaving Milwaukee, that's going to be another shift in the landscape of the NBA, the power rankings, most certainly. Again, I have him in Golden State, and to continue to keep Chef Curry's window open, and then for them to put some pieces around them, for them to kind of get back in the conversation. New York, possibly. Miami, a couple things have to take place, possibly. But there's a couple shoes, and I just, before I kick it back over to Emmett, with your free agency takeaways, because we're not, there's still some. I just think it's about, the Giannis Antetokounmpos of the world. He's the biggest fish out there in the open seas. To see if Phoenix is going, I think that's big for me. See Phoenix putting all the money on the table to keep Booker home. If you start seeing, well, I don't know, and let me see if that marriage doesn't happen, I have Devin Booker eyeing the Detroit Pistons to say, this is, I want to be in Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah. So that's that's the second major power move that I think is going to happen. And then Emmett brings up the point about where Dame goes. And who he's going to help to win a championship is intriguing.
The Warriors makes the most sense because that Bay connection you were talking about earlier, and all the Bay Area artists too. Like he's a rapper, Damian Lillard. Are we forgetting that? It makes so much sense.
Indeed, but it's one or the other. That's where I think Golden State.
Yeah.
They have options now. So Giannis is most certainly there. So you're not going to get both. So that's why I'm leaning more. But free agency, not disappointing. It's a different free agency. It's a second apron free agency. But these dominoes are falling in a more, how shall we say, it's not all at once, so to speak. It's not like as soon as free agency opens, Kevin Durant to the Nets, and you have your major moves just in the first.
I remember that day, that first couple days of that 2019 free agency, absolutely off the charts. You had what was going to happen with Jimmy Butler, Kyrie, KD. There's so many different elements to that. That was a fun time. I miss that time.
Yes. So, couple more things to follow. All right, let's we're gonna talk. We'll talk a little bit. Just gonna breeze through the NFL, just a couple, and obviously getting into July. One of the things that I do.
We're 2 months away, Andre. We're 2 months away, man. We're close. Yeah. We're really close.
Yes. So let's talk. Talked about the Patriots, and I want to kind of reiterate what I said previously, and then the question for me is, who's going to be left out when it comes to the NFL? Because there's going to be a lot of teams, specifically in the AFC, that are going to be left out. But start here in New England, Patriots, 6 wins is my. I have the Patriots being 6-11. The high side, I have them 7-10. And they're just rebuilding. Vrabel knows his business, and they'll lose, okay, but they'll be competitive in these losses, okay. In any other situation, Mike Vrabel would be more than just 3 wins, or he would. But I see the AFC is absolutely loaded. I have this conference, I have teams that are going above and beyond, not even making the playoffs. So, if it's a situation, and what am I getting at? I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are making the playoffs.
Ooh. Okay.
I don't. As much as, I respect the organization, what they stand for, how they conduct business, the moves that they've made. Emmett, are the Steelers more talented than the Miami Dolphins?
Are they more talented than the Miami Dolphins? That's a hard question. I'd say so. I mean, yeah, it's pretty neck and neck though when you look at it, because you look at the Dolphins, like they've got their talent, they've got their now Minka Fitzpatrick, which fleece of the year for the Dolphins, by the way. You've got your Tyreeks, but you look at the Steelers, you got your move, you got your DK Metcalf, you got your TJ Watt, you got your Joey Porter Jr. So my thing with the Steelers, and I like that you brought up that they're not going to make the playoffs. And if you were talking as a Steelers fan, you'd rather that happen, so you can get a good draft pick. But here's what's going to happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're gonna do the same old thing where they go 9-8 or 10-7, somehow sweep into some sort of wild card, and then they're gonna get bounced first round in a blowout. I know it's very specific. I know that's a lot of detail for a prediction, but I'm telling you, that's what's gonna happen. I mean, yes, it might look better on paper with Aaron Rodgers, but the thing with the Steelers is they always know how to be good. Like Mike Tomlin just knows how to be like very mediocre to good. So they're going to be fine in that aspect. But what's going to be really hard for them is going up. Like, yeah, the Browns are probably the worst team in that division. But defensively, if we're talking about just like the Browns, Bengals, and Ravens, who's going to give them the most pass rushing challenge? You're going to say the Browns. I mean, Myles Garrett, and I'm blank. Was it like Mason Graham? Or was that the guy you guys drafted? The dude that the Browns drafted, that D lineman. That is going to be hard for a no offensive line, basically, Pittsburgh Steelers drafting or having to get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers can't move anymore. Like, ever since that Achilles injury, he's on the wrong side of that age. Right. Like, his movements have been very limited. So it's really going to depend on play calling, because what the Steelers have kind of done with Arthur Smith and what the Steelers' MO is, all right, let's run the ball heavily, and then let's try and make a play on third down, because they always have a playmaking receiver, whether that be George Pickens, whether that be AB back in the day, whether that be DK Metcalf from my Seahawks. That's just what they do. I think they're going to have to change up that offense, because Aaron Rodgers, like, as much as I hate the guy and as much as I don't want to see him do well, I mean, if you like, Aaron Rodgers still has the mechanics of being a quarterback. It was just what's going to make the Steelers be good is if they can rely on quick passes and DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth making plays. But what I will say about the Jonnu Smith trade, I don't get it. I mean, yeah, given another weapon alongside Move at the tight end position, that's fine. That's cool. But are we forgetting that they traded away George Pickens? Like, I'm using that like 6th-round pick to go get another wide receiver. I don't know who it would be, but that's my move. Or I'm going for offensive line help to pair up Aaron Rodgers, not a second tight end. I think if I were the GM, I'd try and go for some sort of receiver or some sort of lineman, pardon me, and then try and sign Amari Cooper to go alongside DK Metcalf. That's probably what I'd do, but Steelers, they like Jonnu Smith. And it's not a slight on Jonnu Smith at any point in time. It's just being real about it. I mean, I got 10-7, though, and a first-round exit for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, so you got 10-7. So are you of the mindset that Cincinnati Bengals will once again, with Joe Burrow as their starting quarterback, not make the playoffs? So that's why I'm just looking around and I'm just saying to myself, as much as, I like the mom and pop, I like the, we're going to compete, and they're in this situation where they're a fringe, like they're not going to be able to get into the sweepstakes they need to be in, but I respect them not being in the march for Arch Manning, even though Arch Manning is what they need to set them up for the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and their future has been so murky lately, too. Like, the way, like, you could have argued that they should have drafted Shedeur Sanders, or you could have argued that they shouldn't even brought Aaron Rodgers in, and they should have kept Mason Rudolph or Will Howard as a starting quarterback and hope they tank. And just a note on Arch Manning is I don't think he's coming out next year. I think he's going to start 2 years in college. So just keep that in mind. It's a Manning thing to do where they start 2 years. So it would make sense in the family tradition. But to go back to your question, Cincinnati Bengals, are they missing the playoffs again? I'm about to give you a really hot take. Get ready, like stand up, because your seat might be on fire after this. The Cincinnati Bengals are not making the playoffs. They still haven't paid Trey Hendrickson. Shamar Stewart ain't even signed yet. The guy that they picked up to come and help out that defense still has not signed. And here's where this gets really spicy, as J-Mac would say.
Yes, indeed.
If the Bengals do not get their act together in the next couple of years, and it's not just them signing Trey Hendrickson. We've seen this a lot. They can't, like, either they're the worst graded team if we go on those report cards, which obviously they're no fun to play for is what that means, or it's like working for a crappy company. That's the comparison I can give you guys for that. It's not that. It's not signing Trey Hendrickson. Also, not being able to get Joe Burrow on offensive line for the first couple of years of his career, which led to injuries, which we saw him go through. If they don't get their S together in the next 2 or 3 years, I could see Joe Burrow asking out. Because when you talk about the Trey Hendrickson thing, he spoke out against it. He was frustrated that they haven't paid him, which makes perfect sense. And I get that you can also make the argument, well, maybe you should have been so dead set on paying both Higgins and Chase. I hear what you're saying, but you also have to think about that offense is great. Figure it out, salary cap nerds. And I mean, I do kind of agree with the people on that side of things with Higgins, though. That is a crazy contract when you could find receivers like you gotta go, bro. Imagine George. It would have never happened because of the interdivision, but imagine George Pickens with Joe Burrow. Like, that would be insane. Like, there's guys you can go out and get. Is a point I'm making. Like, it's such a dumpster fire. I think they might be top 3 biggest dumpster fires in the NFL right now, the Cincinnati Bengals. How the hell have your rookie not signed a contract and is threatening to hold out and re-enter in the 2026 NFL draft? We never see that.
So there you go. That's, for me, I just say Cincinnati has Joe Burrow. Steelers have Aaron Rodgers. I'm leaning towards Joe Burrow. You bring up the points about one is going to...
and it sucks because Joe Burrow, you can argue, if they would have made the playoffs, he would have been the MVP last season. If you look at his stats across the board, he was great. But guess what? Your quarterback should not have to score 41 points a game against Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers to be able to win a football game. That's just not what you need if you want to make the playoffs.
Right. And some of the narrative that you hear, and this is, that, Cincinnati's just gone all in on offense, and we're just going to outscore teams.
It's like a Madden game.
Right. And our defense, is going to be, touch and go, smoke and mirrors, and, they end up falling just shy of the playoffs, where the Steelers, this is something that Cowherd had, top in the league in terms of spending on defense. true to form. They're investing in that defense. They're gonna be a rugged team, um, and then offense. They'll
They're
see
saying Jalen Ramsey could play safety too. I thought that was interesting.
right. Um, so okay, you kind of I'm persuaded in the points that you make just about just for me looking at how can a Joe Burrow miss the playoffs 2 years in a row? It's certainly
I
possible.
know it's weird. I second guess it too. I really do. But the way that the Bengals have supported him, I mean, defense wins championships. I know it's like a really corny cliche, but it's true.
So you pointed out some reasons why that could be the case, even though that's not what I want to see.
Yeah,
And then the Miami Dolphins, team that I'm partial to, like Mike McDaniels, so
I
much
love Mike
firepower
McDaniel.
on offense. Tua, hopefully he can stay healthy. Uh, this is another situation. It's you have these teams that if they can't at least make the playoffs, and there's going to be a number of talented players and teams that are going to make the playoffs in the AFC, which is why I only have the Patriots winning 6 games, 7 max, and that's pushing it. Is because if I'm Miami, how am I paying a Tyreek Hill? How do I have Waddle? How do I bring in Minka Fitzpatrick? How do I have Tua? Just not to
A-Chain's gonna need his bag soon too.
right, all not to make the playoffs. So there's tremendous pressure on these teams. Never mind the pressure on the Buffaloes and the Ravens, the Buffaloes and the Baltimores of the world to break through and beat Kansas City. There's as much, if not more, pressure at that next tier of these teams that are just fighting, scratching tooth and claw to make the playoffs. And then when you provided some convincing arguments in terms of why, once again, that will be a historic traditional organization like the Steelers and not be one of the
Okay, I have a question for you about the Steelers. All right, let's say hypothetically they go like 5-12 and they don't make the playoffs, and it's just an absolute S show for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Do you fire Mike Tomlin?
5-12, that's he's known. But okay, let's say that happens, and that's not his MO. He obviously he's won more games and over 500, yada yada.
He's gone 500 every year he's been in the league.
Right. Do I fire Mike Tomlin? I'm going to say no. And the reason being is because that type of a season, in my way, because then you can then go ahead and draft your quarterback of the future. You can draft your next Ben Roethlisberger.
Yes. I think if you want to set your culture, Tomlin's got to be there. Completely agree.
So should they be a 10-7 team and a proud team just to lose in the wild card or the first round to say they made the playoffs? Or it goes sideways. The franchise is unhappy, but they're able to get one of these up-and-coming quarterbacks and then really put their and then just restart, because that's the missing link. Never mind in the conference, but in this division. Like, you're in the same division with Lamar and Joe Burrow, and there's no getting around that. And Cleveland with their monstrous defense. So, like, you have the defense, but you need a general. You need somebody
Facts.
to lead the troop, and they haven't had that, frankly, since Roethlisberger. Pickett, was hopeful, but it didn't work out. So the Steelers are, it's just intriguing to me. But we'll make the parallel back to the Patriots. That's why the Patriots are learning to fly, as I say. 6 wins is on the high side. Where are the wins? Because Emmett, and I'm interested in your point, we'll do a little bit of slice of life, which is something I do before we get the heck on out of here, which is I got all these clips, and then I'm interested in your feedback on these clips. But if I'm the Patriots and I'm fighting for wins, but if I'm Cleveland, like, I'm not giving away wins to the Patriots. Those are games, if I'm Cleveland with that tremendous defense, and then you're trying to develop your quarterbacks, so the Patriots are not more talented than the Browns. And if in those type of matchups, like, I take offense and I want to win that game. Or the Patriots, I have to take a look at their schedule. But these are something like, the Patriots, if they play the Jaguars, like, I can't let the Patriots beat me if I'm the Jaguars. Like, I can lose to the Texans because, they got, but I can't. These other teams that are trying to build stuff also, but are a little bit further along in their progression. Those are the wins that I don't necessarily see the Patriots pulling out. Okay? And then you go to the AFC West. These teams, there's no, like, if if there was a bigger gap between the top teams, then you might catch the Broncos slipping, or you might catch the Chargers slipping, or you might catch the Chiefs slipping. I don't see that happening with the Patriots when they play against these stronger teams because they're fighting for every single inch to get home field advantage, right? So there's no in conference. I just don't see any team them being more talented or being hungrier than these other teams. So 6 wins, a high draft pick, continue to build around Drake May is my view. And then big picture, we'll just stay in the AFC because of we're going to wrap in about 10 minutes. It's my heart has been with Baltimore and the Bills for the last couple years to spread the wealth. But Patrick Mahomes has a Michael Jordan perspective, and he don't want to share with nobody. So you're starting to look like Patrick Ewing to me, Lamar Jackson. You're starting to look like Charles Barkley to me, Josh Allen. You're starting to look like very talented Hall of Fame players that, you talk about the Dan Marinos of the world. Well, Dan Marino got to the early Super Bowl and never got back. The Baltimore, you keep, like, they're better. They're better than the Chiefs, I feel. Pound for pound, they're the better team. But they continually don't win those games or get to those games. And so for the big three in the AFC, it's all about the regular season. It's all about home field advantage. If that AFC Championship game is in Kansas City, I don't trust Baltimore or Buffalo. I'm sorry, I don't. If it's in Buffalo, now
yeah, going there to Kansas City, that's the loudest stadium in the NFL, louder than Lumen Field with my Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, I completely agree. Kansas City, that is never a home field advantage you want to be playing against if you're an away team.
So that's what, I'm hopeful and but I'm not very confident that they are going to. I'm not very confident that they're going to usurp the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though I've had enough of Andy Reid winning Super Bowls and requesting
yeah, right.
Cheeseburgers. I've had enough of that, but he keeps winning. All right. So in terms of the slice of life, Emmett, I take some clips and then I'm just interested in your thoughts. So I referenced this, but Jimmy Butler just talking about what it means to go through the grind.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm grateful for Tyler Junior College. Taught me a lot about the game of basketball. I don't know. I had so much belief in myself. Not to say that I would be up here talking to y'all in the finals, but I just knew I could be a really good basketball player, maybe make a little bit of money doing basketball overseas. And they taught me a lot at Tyler Junior College about the game of basketball. And then, go to Marquette for 3 years. I think JUCO just so happened to be like the best thing for me. And I couldn't tell you that at the time. It was frustrating that I wasn't playing Division I basketball. But my goodness, I got so much love for Tyler Junior College. I don't know, but I'm grateful for Tyler Junior College. Taught me.
Emmett, thoughts?
I completely hear what he's saying, and shout out to them, because sometimes in life, maybe you don't get the opportunities that you want and you think you deserve, and then there's that one place where they're like, you know what, we'll take you on here, and that's exactly what happened for Jimmy Butler. I think that I love what he's saying here about how his college helped him, because I feel like a lot of players really undermine that. Like, we don't really hear about how much their college helped them, and we don't really hear them giving credit to obviously their coaches or their college, unless it's like, oh, I played for Coach K. Like, shout out Coach K. So I love Jimmy Butler saying that. Obviously, that is crazy to think about. If he never went to that college, he could have just gave up, or he could have never made it to the NBA. We might have never seen Jimmy Butler if it weren't for junior college. So shout out them.
Might have never seen him. And that's the foundation, in terms of not skipping steps. And not just in terms of having success, but sustaining success. Success. Excuse me. Got another clip, maybe two, as we come up right up to 2:00. But one of the things that Jimmy Butler, one of the stories I heard about him that resonated with me is that, like, in the off season, he previously, I believe he's from Texas, Greater Houston area. Have to double check on that. But like, his off season training was like him and two of his brothers renting a house with like no internet, no cable, like no distractions, and just going into like a boxing training like mode. And that's
That's
how
crazy.
he prepares himself. I'll see if I can find that clip. I don't know if he still does it, but like that's the mentality, almost like a football boot camp. Like this is what I need to do to get myself mentally prepared for the next journey.
Yep, you're right. Houston, Texas.
Right. And so I think that comes from his, he's not a silver spoon guy. And he's frankly closer to being what Chef Curry was, which is an unranked guy, and never forgot it. And that's what prospered him. Some takes from KD and LeBron about being in the NBA, a smaller guard.
All right.
The 6'2" and under guard
Yes.
is at a premium no more as a starter. Maybe as a backup.
Yep.
But you have to be.
We just talked about this the last match.
It's gotten compressed,
It has.
right? It's compressed.
It has.
It's at like either
The-
Donovan
Yeah.
Mitchell,
Yeah.
Drew Holiday, 6'3",
yeah.
or
Lou
6'4", Lou Dort,
Yeah.
or it's not. You got to be.
You can't get picked on defense. That's the thing, because we're playing such a pick on game that they will really, literally, if you can't guard, they will bring you up every
single
play.
time.
Yeah.
And if
Every
you're
play.
6 foot, 6'1", and you're not a bulldog like
Right.
a Davion Mitchell,
Yeah.
Drew Holidays
Mm-hmm.
on the defensive side, or you're not an
Or not
offensive
athletic
flat out
as hell, yeah.
savant like
Yeah.
Kyrie,
Mm.
where you can score on dudes 7 feet easily and ISO. That I just can't see it.
Mhm.
I don't know if the 6'2" and under guard.
Darius Garland, like he's an amazing basketball player. I think his value right now, like I'm shocked. Like we don't talk about him as like just amazing. Like because the era, like if he played in any other era, I think he
sure.
would have been like his value would be through the roof.
Yeah.
Like he's that skilled, he's water bug, he's got every shot, he can play make. But there's an era where it's like, okay, we also have to help that dude out defensively all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Like that's an example for me because he's such a good basketball player.
Right. He's
yeah,
so tough.
I mean, it's just he is, and it's like, but the defensive side of the ball is where people will attack him.
Mhm.
If you want a chance to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, you are going at Darius Garland most of the time on the defensive side.
Darius Garland, like he's an
Emmett, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we're in a really different time where, like, Isaiah Thomas, like, who was 5'9", like, that man, he, in, like, 2 years had a crazy fall off, and you can maybe say that was a little bit of his height. But the thing is a lot of these, like, we got James Harden, who was playing the point last year, and he was 6'5". Like, LeBron James can play any position. He damn well pleases. Luka Doncic, same thing. And Luka and LeBron are like 6'7", 6'8" type of thing, and maybe in 6'9" for LeBron. So I hear what they're saying. You got to have that special trick to you. You got to be a defensive bulldog. I like the names that they mentioned with Davion Mitchell. Darius Garland is a dog on defense, but Lou Dort, I like that name because Lou Dort is one of the best. I think he might be the best defender in NBA other than Wemby, and that might be a little bit of a hot take. But the way he clamped down Ant, he clamped down Halliburton, like he's just that guy, man. And I think that size is starting like not. It's weird because I want to say it's starting not to matter, but it really like the bigger the better is kind of what it's starting to seem like now, where we kind of lost the big man aspect of things. Like we had the Warriors play that really small ball lineup back in like that 2015 to 2019 era where you sometimes would start Draymond Green at the 5 position. And Draymond Green's like 6'7", by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. But it's starting to seem like that we're not doing like these full big man lineups. So that's not what I'm saying at all. But you don't want your guy to be 6 foot. Like it's weird. It's so weird. Unless you're Drew Holiday.
Right, and I don't think people realize Drew Holiday is like 6'4", 6'5". He's not.
Yeah, you're right. He is 6'4".
Yeah, he's not Drew Holiday, and this is another reason. Again, what little hair and all my beard.
Come on,
hair
LeBron, do better, bro.
is just being ripped out. Drew Holiday, he's bigger than and he's a burly 6'4", 6'5". So he can go down. He can guard in the post. He can guard in the perimeter. But again, you just want to just give away championships. We've already been down that road. For me, I see all these points. It's just interesting. Because
it is.
The like Isaiah Thomas is a Hall of Famer in any era. In any era. So you could talk. Well, Isaiah Thomas, West Side of Chicago. He could get nitty gritty. And he was a player that had to go toe to toe with Magic Johnson, 6'9", he's 6'1", and could do it. So, but I do, they're saying.
I think it's a different era now, and I think the younger guys, it's only gonna get worse. But like these guys like Chris Paul and these guys like I think Curry's like 6'2" or 6'3". Like, so I'll use Steph Curry for an example. They know how that works. Like, Chris Paul was there for some sort of physical basketball, and then you look at guys, like in Wemby's class or Stephon Castle's class, where like their first year in the league, like you said, you can breathe, you can fart on somebody, or like you can fart in the arena and they're going to call a foul. So it's a whole different era now. And I think that like Isaiah Thomas and, shorter guys like that back in the day, they were taught to be physical, and physicality flied more back then. So like he might have had to be a lot more physical to keep up with Magic than he would be now, because they wouldn't allow it.
Indeed. So more on that, I think there's still a place for the shorter guards, but they're being, as Kevin Durant said, they are being hunted. So we've reached that time. Emmett, who's the Lucky Leprechaun? Who's on with Big Ben right now?
We're gonna Mike the Leprechaun. He'll be there. According to his Twitter, Ben's gonna bring him on at 11:45. So yeah, I'm sure Ben's talking about Damian Lillard right now. So if you don't want to hear that, then just wait till like 11:20 before turning on the show. But Fox Sports Radio on iHeartRadio, if you want to check out the Ben Maller Show, and I'm sure Andre is gonna make a call to that show, because Andre calls everywhere.
I will most certainly make a call. And Emmett, we're gonna get out of here.
Yes,
thanks
sir.
so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, bro. It was fun. Gotta do it again.
Yes, sir. Again and again.
Hey.
Come on back.